Stay with Channel 9 Eyewitness News as we track Milton. We're getting higher and higher winds as the hurricane gets closer and closer. I think the worst weather between, well, it's kind of moving in now, but I think 2, 3, 4 a.m., it's really going to be blowing.
You can see the way this wind is pushing the rain that's fallen into the street here.
Oh my God.
What?
Oh my God.
What are you going to do with it?
Some of the images from earlier tonight, and this is what we've been preparing for these last few hours. We've been preparing for what's going to happen to us in Central Florida. The worst weather from Hurricane Milton is on its way, and I'm Greg Wormuth along with Martha Sagowski. Orlando Police and Fire have been pulled from the roads, and they are now told to shelter in place. Martha.
That's the same thing in Sumter County, where they have pulled all of their emergency rescue folks because the winds are just too high. They do not want them on the roadway. And we've also pulled some of our crews. We're not sending any more out. The crews that are out are hunkered down and they're not moving. They're locked and loaded to bring you the very latest pictures happening here in Central Florida. Also, so you know, we had 86-mile-per-hour wind gusts from Orlando International Airport, and flooding is the other big concern over the next few hours. There are flash flood warnings in several counties. You might have had your phone or your device go off announcing that warning in Orange, Osceola, Seminole, Lake, and Volusia counties.
And let's take another live look outside the WFTV studios. Rain has really picked up. The winds are strong as well. The canopy of oak trees through downtown Orlando is in jeopardy. The streets, which flood even on an afternoon storm, also will be tested tonight. This is just really the beginning of what won't end for quite some time for us. And we are seeing, again, more and more people as well losing power as Milton comes this way. We'll check in on the latest numbers in just a few minutes. If you lose power, you can still stay connected with our coverage. You can watch us on our app or on WFTV.com, the website. And if you have a battery-powered radio, tune it to 580 AM WDBO. There's also the FM side as well, and you can listen to our live coverage.
We're also here to keep you informed in every way that we possibly can. We do appreciate, we've asked you all to send us videos. Let us know what you're seeing, what's happening where you live, and folks have been certainly doing that. I know sending you a bunch of videos and me as well. And Tom, you're getting ready for the duration. We still have hours to go.
Yeah, long night. You're up, we're up. We're going to get you through this. And we had a peak wind 86, I believe.
At the airport.
At the airport. We've already been getting 85 over in Daytona. It's going to be really, we keep talking about the beach, but they're really going to get hammered all the way through probably noon tomorrow. Is this
kind of like Ian in terms of the way that's coming in there, just banging them?
Yeah, this actually, Ian went through Brevard County 2 years ago, and it was just I think a 65 or 70 mile an hour tropical storm, and it brought the damage we saw in southern Volusia County. That's why I'm really worried about our East Coast. Here's a live view at 103 dark and early. We have some very wet weather in downtown Orlando. This is the beach in Daytona. Our flags are all broken. The camera mount snapped in half 2 years ago over in Daytona. It's still up now, but you can see the unrelenting rain. Some of the peak wind gusts, we do our best to keep this updated, but mid-80s Daytona and the International Airport, mid-70s in Leesburg, Melbourne 68 so far. And these are the live wind gusts, and we're finally starting to see with the hurricane now over here. It's actually about right here. We're getting that east at 74, Orlando 62. So finally starting to move out of the west coast, but it has a very, very large wind field. There is a cold front just to the north. It's getting intermixed in the storm. Also notice the drier air on the south side, so that's mitigating the flood threat for our southern zones, but it has has been just really unrelenting rainfall for Metro Orlando toward the beaches right now. This is the current position. We're down to 90 miles per hour. Everything is right on target. Again, I have to give kudos to the National Hurricane Center that did a fantastic job, and all the hurricane hunters to give us all the data. This is a monumental hurricane. It's always the biggest challenge that we have as meteorologists, is to cover all the aspects of a hurricane like this for day after day and give you all the information as best as we can. And I hope you have been hunkered down and ready for this storm. As you see, 5 o'clock in the morning over central Brevard County, 80 miles per hour and still offshore at 80. And this is our rainfall estimates in just the last 12 hours. The reason we have the flash flood emergencies going on, you can see them coming through Lakeland, northern Polk County, 12, 13. We're 12 in the southern sections of Lake County, about 12 over in Ocoee. Then you see this sharp gradient or drop off here. That's that drier air. Now, we have seen some heavy rain in parts of Brevard County, and these little strips right here, right there, that's where we had the tornadic supercells coming through earlier today that dumped some heavy rain as they passed on by. But we probably have another 6 inches of rain still yet to come in parts of the area. Here's a look at our regional Doppler radar. This is still a flash flood emergency here in the red. That's why our phones went off here. And usually it happens for tornado warnings. It also happens for flood warnings. And that's bringing heavy rain north of Titusville up through Daytona Beach and toward the Astor areas. We zoom in a little bit closer. Here's Claremont. There's Ocoee. Still very heavy rainfall. The hurricane is down to our south now. That was the wind reading of 86 at the International Airport. So heavy rain, Metro, Altamont Springs, Oviedo, Deltona, Sanford. We've got you covered here. We told you to get hunkered and ready to go, and Mother Nature said, you better hunker because I'm coming through. And this is Geneva over towards State Road 46, north of Mims. Very heavy wind and rain now. That's just on the north side of Titusville. And notice these fast-moving outer squall bands coming in. We're keeping an eye on these for any rotation, but right now there's so much wind that it's just all going to kind of blur in together with wind gusts 85 at Daytona. That was the airport right there. So we're getting unrelenting wind and rain, and this will pound all night and into the early to mid-morning hours later today. Here's Pearson, Paisley, Forest Hills, and DeLand. Lots of power outages here across parts of Marion County already. The Villages, it's a wet and windy night. And here is a look at the our early warning future track forecast model, and we've kind of got it synced up with the hurricane itself passing by. And this kind of fuchsia magenta color is going to be very heavy rain moving in right along and on the northeast side of the hurricane as it approaches Brevard County and the St. Johns River. But very heavy wind and rain through here. You see it flowing cyclonically, so counterclockwise coming in along the coast. And we will actually have, I believe it's going to be a higher tide here in the overnight. So we could get some storm surge continuing to build for New Smyrna, Daytona, Edgewater, along the coast up into Flagler County as well, and an offshore wind in Brevard. So that's going to preclude you from having any surge issues, at least immediately. This is 6:30 in the morning, and the hurricane is moving out, but we're still getting hammered. So what is this, 1 o'clock, 5.5, 6.5, 7 hours of additional rainfall and very strong winds. As that wind field expands behind it, it will lag behind. So it's still going to be rather gusty all the way through the mid-morning hours. And here's an example of that. This is early warning future track. And let's see what it shows here with the wind still in the 60s over here. We're 73, 87 New Smyrna, 77 Cocoa Beach. That's 2 a.m. You can see that kind of a greenish spot that went through. That was the relatively calm center of the hurricane. But this is going to be 4 o'clock in the morning, 77, 82, 66. And finally starting to break up a little bit by daybreak. The weather will be quieting down over the interior. The rain showers will just be passing. Will bring the wind gusts down through here. It's still going to be pretty windy. Tropical storm conditions behind this at 8 o'clock in Metro Orlando. The hurricane will be offshore, and you can see it coming through here. And notice the wind still staying up on the north side. And that's just a forecast model. That's not gospel, but 94 possibility we may get some of the strongest winds after the hurricane moves offshore along our coast. And this continues to verify here with our forecast model. And we don't really have a good wind instruments over at New Smyrna at the airport there. We do at Daytona, and they've already hit the mid-80s. So we've got a lot of wind still yet to come. Now for today, obviously very squally. Tomorrow, this will be Friday, along the coast where we're still starting starting to clean things up. We will see the winds moving down, but not quite as windy. So, guys, we still have some weather that we're going to be watching. I think by the weekend, though, in fact, it's starting on Friday. It'll still be a little bit spritzy, but we're going to start to see the weather improve. Still hurricane conditions through the first part of today, and then outstanding weather after that.
We'll have a lot of cleanup, and so it's good. We'll have our first taste of fall for that.
We need a break.
And pictures coming in, fast and furious. This was one where a gator was right outside of a door. Again, with the water and everything.
Oh my goodness.
In upheaval.
At a gator? Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get in to a house?
That was in Bartow. I don't know if he was trying to get in,
or
but
get
certainly was like looking like, why are you all in there with all that good food? But that's just another example. Thank you for sending your pictures, and only do so when it's safe.
Channel 9's Nick Papantonis is reporting for us live in Orange County. You are in Winter Garden, Nick, and the conditions, are they the same or getting worse?
We are, there's the light there. We are getting a little bit of a relief, a break from the wind. We had some very, very strong gusts, and for the last half hour or so, it has been a little bit calmer, still a little bit gusty, but enough for us to take a little bit of a venture out just to look around down the street. I actually met up with a business owner that was checking on his couple of stores that he was down there. He noticed that the street was starting to flood a little bit. It's just due to a clogged drain. I saw him scooping everything out and getting the water flowing, and now it seems to not be a problem anymore. Because of the relief, we haven't had any more power outages that we've seen. The last time we were counting the transformers that were blowing a half hour ago. That seems to have slowed down here. We are, based on that radar image that, Tom, you're showing, it looks like we're closer to where that eye is, so maybe we're catching a bit of a break there, but we are expecting that wind to start shifting as we get towards the back half of this storm now. So down in Winter Garden, though, again, fielding some messages from people, just power's out here and there. Same over in Lake County, power's out here and there. Some places are worse than others right now. This whole western portion of our viewing area, though, dealing with trees down in places, dealing with a lot of branches down, those power outages that I was just talking about. So there's not any big emergency that I've come across yet. We're keeping our eyes on a couple of situations that are ongoing to try to figure out if there's something or not. But at the moment, everyone appears to be safe. It's more of just some cleanup that's going to be happening after the storm. Of course, as we've been saying, though, we still have a couple of hours to go here of the worst weather, and with all this rain coming down, with the roots of trees being waterlogged, who knows what that shift in the wind will do on this back half here. So that's what we're going to be watching for, hoping that this lasts. So this has been pretty nice. I'm sure we'll be back to getting a bath in just a few minutes here. Live in Winter Garden, Nick Papantonis, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, Nick, thanks so much.
We're going to continue our coverage. We'll take you back out in just a moment, out to Shannon Butler live. She is still in Tampa, where her camera person, Carrie Krosky, has now spotted this. What is this all about in Tampa? Is that smoke? Is that water? Is that steam? We're trying to figure that out, but what we can tell you is it is a mess in Tampa. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. It is 16 minutes after 1 on a Thursday, so this will be our final day of the storm traversing through Florida. Then we have the cleanup and the aftermath, which always takes longer. But this anticipation is difficult. How long will this last? That's the big question. We still have several more hours, at least in most of Central Florida. The coastline could have quite a few more hours, especially the way the coast is going to get battered.
I'm Martha Sagalski along with Greg Wilmerth. We're going to go out live right now to Tampa, where Shannon Butler has been bringing us live reports, and you've had some serious wind, rain. In fact, it was so gusty there and so strong for you, Shannon, you actually could not be out of the elements physically on the ground. You're up high in your hotel.
Yeah, but we are finally seeing a little bit of a break. That wind has died down a little bit. We actually wanted to get a different vantage point over here to see. You can see these roads still are flooded here from that flash flooding. But it looks like things might be starting to get a little better. We have been watching a spot over here. I don't know if you can see that appears to be smoke somewhere. There's quite a bit of fires. There's reports of a neighborhood in Bradenton that might have some fires. We have seen some because of all of these blown transformers. We've seen a lot of smoke. We wanted to come to this side because there's a neighborhood back here, and we wanted to see if any of these homes had any damage. And all we can see right now is that someone's fence seems to be torn apart right here. We can't see further down this block here, but there is certainly damage on many homes here in the Tampa Bay area. If they didn't get hit by water, they definitely got hit by wind. As we've been reporting to you, we've told you that the roof of this hotel, the tiles continue to, blow off. You can see now, here's all those cracked tiles just right here. This roof just isn't any kind of match for the winds that we got here in Tampa. It's interesting in this area, though, as we've been walking around where we can walk around, is that the trees seem to have held up pretty good in this area. I really thought we'd see a lot more downed trees, at least right here around us. I'm sure Tampa Bay is getting hit with a lot of downed trees, but in this area, these trees did pretty well. We're just dealing with that flooding and, of course, all of that wind, but we're finally starting to see maybe a break in this, at least for Tampa Bay, something that they are hoping for, because this has been hours and hours for us of just getting hammered, you guys, by this storm.
So I just talked to meteorologist David Heckert for you, and Shannon, he said that you're on the back side of this, that the worst is, at least from tonight's vantage point, you have already faced that. So there's some good news for you.
That is good news. Hearing it also.
Thank you. Finally, some good news.
Yes.
Now, tomorrow, on the other hand, maybe not so much when the light of day comes upon the damage, whether it's in the Tampa area, Sarasota. The videos are just horrific that we're seeing tonight with the dark of night, and Fort Myers basically underwater again. Sarasota, Manatee, they really took quite a beating, and that's where, again, the storm came ashore tonight at about 8:40 or so.
All right. We're going to go to Tampa Bay right now with some incredible video of the reverse storm surge. And this happened. Now, normally, there's water here. But because of Milton and what it's done, it has sucked the water out of the bay, if you will. And this is a scene you don't see very often.
We've had that in other storms, and this is what we had talked a little bit about with the nature of this storm. Would it push all of the sand and all of the water over the seawall, which it did do a lot of that, or would it suck it out based on, again, the suction from the storm? And so David Heckert is here.
Check it out.
And we talked about this. It wasn't going to be a Helene storm surge, which we kind of knew was going to be all across the West Coast. It was really going to be critical where the landfall point was. And it was such a close shave for the Tampa Bay area. If the landfall was just 20 miles north, let's say made it to southern sections of Pinellas County, we'd be talking about catastrophic storm surge going on. And they got enough problems going on in Tampa that they didn't need storm surge to add to that. So we did have a big storm surge event. It looks like, though, along southwest Florida. I have seen video that's come in here in the last couple of hours. Downtown Fort Myers again went underwater. We're going to get a lot more video of the damage, I think, in the Sun Coast and southwest Florida as we get towards first light later on in the morning. Now, here in Orlando, we got our own problems. You can see, though, our camera here. This is in downtown. Still power on across much of the downtown area, but notice these little water droplets are just pulled like that because we're taking some very strong winds across the area. And then let's head over to Daytona, where they have just been absolutely hammered the last couple of hours. This is our camera shot here, and you can see the Daytona Beach Pier. Unfortunately, the winds here are not going to die down really for the next several hours. I sent an email to our reporter there, Sam Martello. I told her this is going to look like this 6 a.m., 8 a.m. here in Daytona Beach. You just have a lot of onshore winds to deal with, and the winds have really impacted the area. In fact, in the last hour, we've had an 86-mile-an-hour gust at Daytona or Orlando International, 85-mile-an-hour gust at Daytona Beach, Leesburg with a 75-mile-an-hour gust. And again, hurricane force winds are 75, so we're taking gusts above hurricane force across much of the area, hence why the power outages are becoming more of a concern. 73-mile-an-hour gust in Marineland, 68 in the last hour in Kissimmee, and also 68-mile-an-hour gust in Melbourne. These are the sustained winds right now, 30s and 40s in many locations. And here are the updated wind gusts. We had a 49-mile-an-hour gust at the airport, but keep in mind this is just kind of a snapshot. This isn't cumulative wind gusts over the last hour. 75-mile-an-hour wind gusts, though, in the last hour out at Daytona. 54-mile-an-hour gust in Titusville and a 56-mile-an-hour gust in the Melbourne area. Our flooding threat is also a big concern as well. We still have flash flood warnings in effect until 2 a.m. for the majority of Metro Orlando. We've just gotten hammered with rain, and there's still quite a bit of rain that we're tracking on early warning Doppler 9. You can see this band here of very intense rainfall. We're talking about 5-6 inches per hour here in a stretch almost right along the 429 from Ocoee up through Apopka in northwestern Orange County. Also seeing that activity extend into parts of Seminole. And here comes a pretty big rain band into parts of Volusia County. We'll get to that in a second. But Oviedo, Winter Springs up through Lake Jessup and near the Deltona area, also dealing with that heavy rainfall. Look at how strong the wind and rain is right now. Oak Hill, if you're watching us there, you know it is really coming down. That is trying to lift its way northward into New Smyrna Beach. Daytona, which is already dealing with wind, you're going to see eventually that band lift its way through. Heavy rainfall across much of Flagler County where you have a flash flood warning, and then interior sections of Lake and sections of inland Volusia County, Pearson, Astor, De Leon Springs, also dealing with the heavy rainfall. And finally into parts of Marion and Sumter counties, not as heavy, but still steady wind-driven rain across much of the Ocala area back through the villages and south towards Bushnell. I want to show you an update here on our power outage map. This is a cumulative map of the entire state, and I want to show you how the colors change and how quickly the colors change. So this is 7 o'clock. I'm going to put this into motion here, and notice how all of these counties start turning red very, very quickly as the winds from Milton really begin to impact. And in parts of Tampa Bay, we are talking now approaching almost 500,000 people or 500,000 homes without power. In Pinellas and Hillsborough County, over 200,000 without power into parts of Manatee and Sarasota counties. If we're getting to the point, let's flip the statistic and talk about a percentage. And we are talking about now over 80% of Sarasota County without power, 85% of Manatee County without power. And we talked about this. We thought the landfall point, we would probably see an outage rate of around 90, maybe even 95%. So much of Manatee and Sarasota counties have no power. 75% approximately in Pinellas County, no power. And now almost 2/3 of Hillsborough County has no power. Unfortunately, the power numbers are ticking higher for us here. We got 58,000 without power in Marion County, 62,000 in Lake County, up to 52,000 in the last few minutes in sections of Volusia County, 36,000 in Orange, 14,000 in Seminole County, 22,000 in Osceola, and only 5,000 currently into parts of Brevard County. Let's head right over here to Future Track. You can see here 1 a.m. right now, basically the worst of the weather. We should see some improvement, I think, in the next couple of hours in Metro Orlando. We get towards around 4 a.m. Here we are at 7. We're still going to have some strong winds out there. Do be very careful at first light. You may want to have a tendency to kind of look around at the damage. We're going to have trees down. We're going to have some power lines down. Just stay indoors. Let the first responders and crews kind of clean things up. And we're still going to have some very strong winds onshore. Those will continue in coastal Volusia and Flagler County all the way through much of the daytime hours on Thursday. In fact, by 4 o'clock, I think that's when even our coastline will begin to quiet down. So really the next 3 hours are kind of prime time here in Metro Orlando. If there's any good news about all of this and how everything has happened today, it is we have some much nicer weather behind Milton as our first really legitimate cold front arrives. So the good news, a lot of times when we deal with no power, we deal with temperatures back in the low to even mid-90s. We're going to be in the low 80s on Friday, low to mid-80s heading into Saturday and Sunday. So we will have very nice weather for the cleanup efforts on this. But no doubt about it, and Tom mentioned this earlier, when we start building our graphics, Martha and Greg, and we start putting big numbers on the board, 80-mile-an-hour gusts, 85-mile-an-hour gusts, unfortunately, that is exactly what we've seen here tonight, and we have more to go through all the way the morning hours in parts of Volusia and Flagler counties.
Yeah, Tom has a phrase sometimes he says, which I think is perfect here. I hate when you know it.
Yeah.
And you guys know it.
Yeah.
All right, more video from our great viewers coming in right now with some damage from Hurricane Milton. This is in Ocoee, where a tree has come down on a fence on the backyard of one of our viewers' home. I'm sure this is going to be repeated across our viewing area due to those strong winds from Milton, Greg.
Yeah, and there was a big warning today. Of course, you know, a lot of us want to grab a chainsaw when something like this happens. It seems like it might be kind of fun to use a chainsaw, but it can be very, very dangerous. And boy, emergency rooms are filled with people who think they are good at forestry after a storm. So be careful, leave it to the experts, or just take your time and make sure you read the manual. Don't just pull it out of the box and start sawing trees once the weather clears. Well, and as Hurricane Milton is making those impacts, we want to see your pics, and we've been seeing a lot of them today. Safe always, never go outside during the storm, and you can share your images by scanning this QR code. That's probably one of the easiest ways on screen, or go to WFTV.com/share your pics.
All right, we are going to come back in just a moment. We're going to have Q McCrae, who is near the theme parks, and you know what? Sometimes they clean up so fast you wouldn't know the storm has even been here. So we're going to have that story.
Not even a leaf.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah, not a speck of anything. All right, we'll be back right after this. 1:30 this Thursday.
Yeah, we're rolling through this. Every top and bottom, you can count on us having the latest on the forecast. I just got a message from a viewer in Winter Park, and the question, I'm telling you, this is the most common question that I receive in all my messages, is how much longer do I have? And it
When's
just depends on, it depends on where you are. The folks in Volusia County, and maybe Flagler, I guess, with the way that storm is whipping, I think they're going to be in this for a while. Tom Terry is back with us, and this just is so eerily reminiscent, at least for us, as we covered that from 2 years ago when we saw, just that same kind of a pattern.
Yeah, and that was the winds 2 years ago were kind of narrowly focused south of Daytona, Wilbur by the Sea, Daytona Beach shores, and just beat the heck out of the beach and all the homes, and they're still recovering from that 2 years later. So I hope we don't repeat that.
That was Ian.
Perhaps over a larger area with just at least unrelenting rain. And if you're in Metro Orlando, this is going to be a heavy rain and gusty winds all through the night. Probably by 6, 7 a.m., the rain will gradually start to back off, and it will start to get a little bit less windy. Daytona, it is Hurricane Milton. They are getting hammered. Our camera is still there, but as you can tell, it is really getting rocked around. We may lose it as we did 2 years ago when it snapped off and we could see everything upside down on the camera. International Airport, 86 miles an hour so far. We could top 90 with this. Daytona about the same. Leesburg, Cocoa Beach is reporting 76. Kissimmee coming in at 76, and Melbourne 68 so far. These are the live wind gusts. We're now 78 in Daytona, 49, 32, and this is backing off, I think, a little bit because you're getting closer to the relatively calm center of this hurricane that's going to be passing just south of St. Cloud. In fact, here it is as of the, was it now 1 o'clock, 1:30, so 1 a.m. advisory. It's down to a Category 1, 90-mile-per-hour sustained winds. The pressure continues to rise. We told you this would be a hurricane all the way through the state, and that is certainly going to verify. And you can see that the leading edge, very strong northeast winds are kind of pushing that on through. There's still quite a bit of rain, though, on the back edge. Not the really heavy stuff, but this is what's going to last all night. And unfortunately, the power outage numbers continue to climb very high. 140,000 customers without power in the Polk County area. 66, 58,000, 54,000, 36,000 in Orange County, and continuing to climb as the winds get a little bit closer to you and the heavy rainfall. It's lowest in Brevard County, as you've had just a little bit less wind, at least so far, and less heavy rainfall so far than the rest of Central Florida. So these are all flash flood emergencies that started in Tampa, coming through Metro Orlando. Flash flood emergency meaning that there's an imminent chance of some flooding. Here's a live view from Daytona Beach right now, and it is just continuing to hammer up in the Daytona Beach area. If we can pull that up for you right now in the coast, and they're going to continue to get the heavy wind all through the night and even past daybreak in the morning. Again, that's our live camera, and it is rocking. We've got winds over 85 miles an hour gusting along the beach there, and that is a live view looking northbound on top of our structure there. All the flags are gone, as we knew they would be, and those are winds very strong onshore. My goodness, yeah. Hey, David, would you look up the high tide cycle over there in Daytona? I think we're coming into a high tide cycle. I know it's going to be later today around around 2 o'clock. So usually they run in these 12-hour intervals. So we're certainly getting some surge there. We do have a storm surge warning out for 3 to 5 feet of surge in our northern beaches here. Here's Oviedo, heavy rain, Deltona, the Mount Plymouth area, and that's another flash flood emergency.
Yeah, that's going to be a new flash flood. It's just almost a reissue of what we had previously, and it's going to go till 4:30, Tom.
Okay, 4:30 flash flood emergency for Orange County and a lot of Metro Orlando and really, frankly, a lot of Central Florida. And this is, I think this just popped on, David. I think this is going to be a flash flood emergency now for Volusia County.
Yeah, it does push a little bit further east into Volusia and northwestern Brevard County as well.
Okay, so we're going to be, thank you, David, north of Titusville. That's that polygon. Mims, I think you may just get out of the worst of it, but Oak Hill, New Smyrna. And I'm telling you, this is where we're really just going to get rocked all night and well into tomorrow morning along the northern beaches. So if you're watching or listening to us over in Daytona Beach, Ormond Beach, New Smyrna, long duration, 12 hours still to go with this particular storm in our northeastern beaches. You see that heavy rain that's just rocking through there, and we're still importing. So we have the rain coming in from the west. We have the onshore rain bands and squalls coming in off the open Atlantic. So it's a 1-2 punch here that's going to really be taking things out. We have all of our cameras showing up right now. Daytona Beach on the upper right, and those are winds of hurricane force there. The lights flashing a little bit. Downtown Orlando, rain's blowing sideways. We have hit about 75, 76 in downtown, 86 at the International Airport. And finally on the bottom, that's going to be Port Canaveral, where things are relatively calm at the moment. You kind of missed some of the really heavy rain they had a lot earlier during the afternoon in the tornado event that we had yesterday. You can see some heavy rainfall continuing to work through from Palm Coast through Daytona. And we're, of course, watching all the area. We haven't talked as much about you up here in Marion County down through Sumter and Northern Lake because, frankly, you've been out of the worst line of fire, although it's still very wet and windy for your area. We recognize that through Ocala, down through Lake Pan, the Villages, Lady Lake, and into Okahumpka. And I guarantee these are going to be verifying later today with the storm surge capability. A little bit lesser surge here for Brevard County because you're mainly in this offshore flow. But to the north, where the winds are going to be howling, as you can see that they are, this is Daytona. So that's kind of what we're talking about right now. When is the next high tide, David? It should be coming up here. I think it's basically right now. We'll verify that, but it will be.
Just one quick thing. I had it up. They are currently in high tide. They just came through the high tide cycle.
Okay, so we're high tide over in Daytona Beach. So that's when the most surf and erosion problems can happen. They'll have one later today, and unfortunately, we're still going to have a lot of onshore wind to continue with this storm surge capability in Daytona Beach, Edgewater, Palm Coast, St. Augustine. And something else we haven't talked a whole lot about is that the winds are coming in up at Jacksonville on the St. Johns River, which runs backward through here and then kind of works its way south. So this is why all these counties to the north have been highlighted as well because of storm surge flooding coming in from the river, which will back things up farther to the south. So here's a look at early warning future track. We'll keep our cameras going there, keeping an eye. We'll see how long that Daytona Beach camera can hang on. We had to replace the mount 2 years ago. So far, it's hanging in there. I don't want to jinx it. Here's Ocala, the Villages, Claremont. This core is going to move through. This is the track, and it matches up pretty well with our early warning IBM forecast model, which has really done a very nice job with the whole track and position. We've had to tweak it a little bit, but so far it's held up very well. And folks have been asking me, when is it going to finally start to let up? By 6:30 in the morning, first daylight, it'll still be cloudy. It'll still be rather gusty, kind of tropical storm conditions for Ocala, the Villages, and Claremont. The last shield of moderate rain will move out of Metro Orlando. But we're not finished over along the beach with a little bit of wraparound rain coming into Brevard County, but it's going to be all night. And then we'll still have some outer rain bands on the far western periphery of the storm at 10 o'clock in the morning. And unfortunately, with the cold front nearby, the hurricane-force wind field gets broad and it will move out, but a very large kind of tropical storm-force wind field will be left behind. And I think it's still going to be gusty at 5 o'clock tonight along the East Coast. So, guys, we're continuing to monitor this. You can see our cameras. We'll keep those in the corner. And it is Hurricane Milton, which is going to be moving all the way offshore, but not till around 5 a.m. in Brevard. And as I've said, even after it moves out, it ain't over along the coast till probably early mid-afternoon. Long day.
Yeah, you know, everything is closed virtually tomorrow in terms of entertainment, but what we have found with any hurricane of any magnitude, they do ramp things up very quickly, just as soon as it's safe for their workers to get out into the theme parks. And there's millions of people, thousands certainly, that are waiting for the gates to reopen.
And Channel 9's Q McCrae is live in Orange County for us near SeaWorld. And Q, what are you seeing out there? We know that the folks can't get in quick enough to the theme parks to clean it on out to get the tourists in.
That's right, that's right. So we are live along I-Drive right now, guys. Right across the street from the Hyatt Regency, 2 blocks away from the Orange County Convention Center, caddy quarter from Point Orlando, rather. And this is what we're seeing right now. You know, nothing unusual, right, that you wouldn't expect during a hurricane. You know, the palm trees are swaying in the wind. The trees are rocking back and forth. Nothing unusual there. Exactly what you would expect with a hurricane making its way through our area. But keep in mind, for our safety, we're reporting live well, in the shadow of a 15-story hotel, so we can do our job safely and still show our viewers exactly what's going on out here. But every so often, we're getting this massive gust that makes its way through this area. When it happens, and it should happen during this live shot, well, of course, we'll show it to you live. But when it comes to, you know, the lights, no power outages to talk about along I-Drive. If you're familiar with this area, you know that all the utilities are underground. So that goes for the power lines, the telephone lines, the cable lines. They're all underground. So that isn't an issue here at this point. But, you know, this area is known as, you know, the tourist district of Central Florida. But what I've been calling it.
All right, Q McCrae,
I can't wait to hear what he's been calling it, because that got cut off.
Well, hopefully we can get him back. And
yeah, we have to.
He can fill us in.
I was like turning up my IFB, which is my earpiece. I'm like,
yes.
Oh.
But we'll find out soon.
Yeah, got to find out. I was hanging on his every word.
All right, well, you may be able to reach first responders during Hurricane Milton. Even if your cell phone network is down, some iPhones will allow you to text emergency services via satellite.
All right, so here's how to do it, and I'm going to learn this right along with you. To use this feature, go to Messages and text 911. Tap Emergency Services and then Report Emergency. You will need to follow directions to connect to a satellite and then answer some questions to describe your emergency. Now, this is only available to people with an iPhone 14 and iPhone 15 with the latest software update. So even if the cell tower near you is down and you've still got your phone and it's battery power, the battery's good, you follow these directions and you can get at least your emergency call taken care of.
I'm glad I have 3 11-year-olds who can show it to me on my phone, because
they might have invented that.
They might have, because they're so tech savvy.
Yeah.
All right, it is pushing 2 a.m. on this Thursday. We're here with you to get you through Hurricane Milton. We're going to have more news for you, the latest on the track, and you might be wondering, hey, when is this going to get out of here? We're going to let you know next.
As Milton makes landfall, Channel 9 Eyewitness News will continue to keep you informed with team coverage throughout Central Florida.
This is the largest storm mobilization in Florida history.
With constant updates from Chief Meteorologist Tom Terry and the Severe Weather Center 9 team.
Tracking one of the larger tornado outbreaks that I've done here in 28 years.
Updating you on power outages, road closures, and areas most impacted before, during, and after the storm. Depend on Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, welcome back. We have a shot we want to show you right now. We have a tower cam to show you.
Yeah, this is the shot that we like to keep an eye on to see what's happening in Volusia County. Typically, you know, people are strolling, not at this hour necessarily. This is the boardwalk there in Daytona Beach, and that is that onshore It's not an onshore breeze. I mean, this is massive wind and the power and the surge that is absolutely just blowing apart probably the sand dunes, and the deterioration of the conditions there continues to be prevalent. Let's continue with our look at Daytona Beach by talking with Sam Martello, who is in the world's most famous beach. And Sam, that camera seems to show that the wind is mighty powerful over there right now.
Yeah, Greg and Martha, like I heard Tom Terry say earlier, Hurricane Milton is definitely here in Daytona Beach now. We came back to our hotel just to have a bit of cover and safety because things have definitely really picked up here outside. I'll kind of walk to the sidewalk to give you a look at the wind conditions right now. You can see the palm trees are swaying. Now, every once in a while when, you know, one of those bands of wind whips through here, we get like a white wall of rain kind of making its way through because these condos, these high rises really make for just a airway for this wind to move through. Just moments ago, we saw one of the street lights get ripped off from where it was hanging, and this wind is just billowing through here. Parts of actually a sign earlier got ripped off, flew down here to the sidewalk. My photographer, Mateo, picked it up, put it inside because that was definitely going to be a hazard for us, or even for just, if anything was moving around, it was definitely just going to be a hazard here this morning. So this is what we're seeing. The wind is picking up. The rain is picking up as well. Here kind of goes what I was talking about with this white wall of rain when it's just really whipping through here. I do want to remind everyone the bridges are closed right now onto Daytona Beach. They closed at around 9:30 last night. So if you're here on Daytona Beach, you are going to be staying here on Daytona Beach for the time being. And there is also that curfew in place that county leaders put into place the other day. So that curfew is staying locked until 8 o'clock this morning. If things change, I'll let you know. But there again, there goes that white wall of rain just mixing together, just really, really whipping through here. So that is the latest that we have here for you here in Daytona Beach. Sam Martello, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Wow, you could really see that absolutely just bouncing her around. And Sam, be safe there as well. We know that you and Mateo will do your best to give us the pictures, but don't do it at any risk. Of course, we're not going to go there as some of the network people think is cool.
We don't do that.
We're not doing
type
that.
of shenaniganery.
No.
All right, Orange County officials are taking care of an unexpected evacuee found earlier today. Check this out.
I'll take a video. Take video. TV too? Oh my goodness.
Oh, officials say a local guy found this kitten in his yard before sheltering at Lake Nona High. It was one of the few pet shelters in Orange County. And guess what he named it? Milton.
Of course, what a great name.
That's perfect.
Milty. Yeah, you could do that. I mean, there's a lot of good names you could go with.
Well,
Trooper was for the dog that was rescued by the trooper. You could do Stormy, you could do Kane, but I think Milton is perfect.
I like that.
And then this is a great story. You talked about that bird rescue and where someone just came upon a bird, and then you recently got an email of a happy ending for that.
Yes, I posted a guy by the name of Jacob is in Cocoa, and he was driving down River Road and it was flooded. And he's in his truck and he's going by. He was like wake going off of his truck, and he saw this like white blob on the side. He backed up to check it out, and it was an injured seagull. Yeah. So he scooped up this bird, put it into his truck. He knows nothing about, you know, he's not an Audubon a member or a professional, if you will. And he took it home with him, put it in the back of his truck because he saw that this bird was injured. Yeah. And so he has it in a cage in his garage. And someone saw our story that you and I were talking about, and they messaged me and they said, hey, we're part of the Audubon Society in Maitland, Birds of Prey, the Birds of Prey Center. And if he brings it here, you know, we can help take care of it. And I just thought that was so neat, and how our community is helping out. And there he is. Jacob is picking up the bird right there. And again, he's not a bird expert. And God,
I love this story so much.
Look at that. And he's getting in the back of the truck, and now he's there. At least he's out of the elements, and he's safe, and he's warm, and he is going to get it out to the right folks. Again, this all happened in Brevard. Birds of Prey is in Maitland. I know because my triplets do a summer camp there. They have a week of summer camp there during the summer, and that is a facility that takes in birds rescues. We've seen them. They've rescued eagles and owls, and if you find something on the side of the street, on the road, you can bring it in and they'll rehab it.
Okay, so that was Jacob that found that, right?
Yes, Jacob found it.
So we're going to call the bird Jake.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Milton. I think we can skip on the Milton.
I think
there.
Jake is good. That's
and
a cool
Milton,
name for a bird.
Yeah, Milton was the replacement name for Michael, which was 6 years ago.
So
this will be the last Milton. It's gone.
Yeah, there's no Milton anymore.
Yeah, there's fatalities and there's this massive damage. They don't do that again.
Problem. So again, we started with the deadly tornadoes down in South Florida earlier today. The largest single-day tornado outbreak, 126, I believe, was the number of warnings that were issued. A lot of them down south, and that was the largest in the state history and the second most in one day, going back to the super outbreak across the deep south about 13, 14 years ago. So incredible. And just getting hammered in Daytona Beach is really taxing our new camera mount, which broke during Hurricane Ian, but we're looking right up the beach right now. That is a hurricane coming through. Peak wind gusts are still in that mid 80 mile per hour range. The International Airport, Daytona Beach, 85. We're going to continue to maybe see these slowly rise a little bit more as the hurricane continues to slowly diminish its overall top speed, if you will. The overall peak wind speed will also drop a little bit, but it's going to still be very windy. Pretty much what we have now is what we'll have for the rest of the overnight hours and gradually start to taper off from west to east during the morning hours. Case in point, Claremont-Leesburg, 63 mile per hour wind gusts, and the hurricane is right over here and moving toward the beach right now. And the winds have been not quite as gusty through here because there's a little bit less rain. So we're getting a lot of wind, but the rain really helps translate those winds down toward the ground. And you can see this heavy rain that continues to work over Metro Orlando. They did extend the flash flood emergency over towards southern sections of Volusia County as well. And just a quick check of the county power outages here in the purple. That's going to be over Pinellas and Hillsborough County. They have millions without power, 160,000 customers in Polk County. These numbers have gone up appreciably in the last hour or so, 60, 72,000, 56,000, and that's going to be for Volusia County, and 42,000 now for parts of Orange County. So you may have had some flickers. Maybe you are not seeing any power in your area right now. There are tens of thousands of people ready to spread out, and it's going to be a huge cleanup job here as we've had record surge in parts of the West Coast, record rainfall. In fact, Tampa, I believe, had more rain yesterday than they had their previous record month. Is that right, David? Yeah. In all of October, they'd had, I think, 10 inches 1 month in October. They had more than that in one day with this particular hurricane. So you can see it's still moving through. And this is still the flash flood emergency, which is ongoing till 4:30. We're not verifying, at least as of right now, and thankfully I'm going to knock wood so I don't jinx this, but we haven't verified the extensive just inundation flooding. And I think part of this may be we learned a lot of lessons about how to try to handle a lot of flood water. And we haven't had quite as much. We had about 16 inches back in 2022 in Metro Orlando. We may be upwards of 10 to 13 to 14, and it could still rise. But we're hoping we don't have the huge issues there. But I think we're going to put a lot of water, we are now, in the St. Johns River Basin. So that could still be another huge flood issue in the weeks ahead. We will see. Here's Apopka, Forest Hills, very heavy rain. We still have power at the Terry Ponderosa. I checked with that. Miley the Wonder Dog was out trying to go in the front yard. She was not having much to do with it. I think a twig came down and hit her and she went back in. This is New Smyrna, Oak Hill, very heavy rain and unrelenting through the overnight hours. Incredible winds still coming in across Palm Coast, Flagler Beach. We also had reports that little wave up there, that is the Matanzas River. So we're starting to get flooding in St. Augustine. We are at high tide currently. So this is going to be bringing in a lot of winds and water all through this area. That's why the storm surge warning was out. That's why the evacuation orders were posted for the barrier islands for that. Right now we've got Ocala, Lake Pan, still a very wet and windy night. And again, guys, you've been asking me the timing for all this weather to move out. Metro Orlando is probably not till around 5 6 o'clock in the morning, but it'll still be windy for most of the day and squally windy for till probably noon at our beach.
Yeah, that's a good answer, because I just got an email from Paul DeRosa. He is in Horizon West, and that's his question. How much longer? So it'll
all
be
night.
All night, yeah, until the sun comes
Isn't
up.
that a song? All night long?
That is.
There we go. Okay, yes.
After the break, I'll sing it to you. All right. We'll continue with our coverage. There's another live look. This is Kissimmee in Osceola County. And again, we're in this for the long haul, folks. It is just about 2 a.m. You can count on feeling these impacts for another 4 or 5 hours. And then on the coast and over at Volusia County, much longer than that. This issue is not behind us just yet. We'll be right back.
As Milton makes landfall, Channel 9 Eyewitness News will continue to keep you informed with team coverage throughout Central Florida.
This is the largest storm mobilization in Florida history.
With constant updates from Chief Meteorologist Tom Terry and the Severe Weather Center 9 team.
Tracking one of the larger tornado outbreaks that I've done here in 28 years.
Updating you on power outages, road closures, and areas most impacted before, during, and after the storm. Depend on Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Stay with Channel 9 Eyewitness News as we track Milton. We told you to get hunkered and ready to go, and Mother Nature said, you better hunker because I'm coming through.
Every so often, we're getting this massive gust that makes its way through this area.
But there is certainly damage on many homes here in the Tampa Bay area. If they didn't get hit by water, they definitely got hit by wind.
All right, Hurricane Milton has weakened to a Category 1 hurricane centered over central Osceola County. Central Florida, of course, will continue to feel major impacts over the next few hours. We're going to get through it, though. We're going to have some hurricane-force winds and some flooding rains. Good early morning to you. Thanks for being with us. I'm Martha Sagowski.
And I'm Greg Wormuth. I love that. You better hunker because I'm coming through. Tom Terry. Circa 2024. Well, in the last hour, wind gust of 78 miles per hour recorded in Melbourne, 76 miles per hour at Patrick Space Force Base, and 78 miles per hour at Daytona International Airport. That's where we get the official readings. And again, maybe your phone or watch went off, whatever the case may be. We are under a flash flood warning for Metro Orlando, Volusia County, and parts of Brevard County. And it's no wonder why, because it's absolutely pouring outside. And then this is deja vu. You'll remember 2 years ago, Hurricane Ian with those offshore, wind gusts and sustained winds actually ripped apart so many things. Sunglow Pier, down there in Daytona Beach shores, and Wilbur by the Sea was, really badly damaged. There was flooding, and now this is a repeat performance for Volusia County. And we can only imagine, too, as we would continue up the coast, Flagler is also being impacted, Cocoa Beach as well. And this is just the strength of the storm. And Tom Terry is here right now. Tom, this is not unexpected.
No.
But it's unfortunate.
Yeah, you hate it when you know it. And, we were putting the maps together. We knew the size of this hurricane, the fact that it got so strong so fast. John Morales out of South Florida, got choked up when he saw that 50 millibar drop in a few hours. And it's just an incredible feat of nature. We've had this record warm waters in the Gulf, and the climate change and all that is playing a factor here. But we're still getting hammered, and it's going to be all night tonight. Let me show you what we have currently. Downtown Orlando, still a moderate to heavy rain, and the winds are still blowing fiercely, not as gusty as we are over at Daytona, and that's going to be a look for all night over there at the beach. The International Airport 86, Melbourne 78. 75 Leesburg earlier today, 85 at Daytona Beach. I'm curious to see what kind of rings we can get out of Daytona, because we lost, we should have a wind gust reporting right there, but none. So we may start losing some of our sensors here communication-wise. 63 in Leesburg, and still just kind of windy. It's a little bit less down in Kissimmee because you're pretty close to the center of this. This is Milton, which is right over here, Category 1 hurricane. But as we talked so much about, the clouds are really down south, but the rain is north, and that's where the heavy rain continues to come through. Updated power outages across the area. Of course, the The worst is going to be along the coast here where the storm made landfall, and that's what we expected. 170,000 customers without power in Polk County, 74, 56,000, 14 only in Seminole. That's good, but 40,000 across Orange County customers without power. And you can see the flash flood emergencies, which started in Tampa and then continued up the I-4 corridor and have been right over the downtown Orlando area and over toward the beaches. And I think this area here could continue to see flash flooding all the way through and past sunrise. It's 2:04 in the morning, and the rain is not going to end here along the East Coast. So very high rain amounts there. It's screaming rain here in Apopka, Forest Hills, DeLand, along with Lake Mary, Deltona. If you're within the I-4 corridor, we have all night of at least wind and rain. Some of the higher rainfall, rain rates, if you will, are still here for another few hours. That will continue to move eastbound slowly as the hurricane moves east at about 15 miles per hour. Various shots here. There's, of course, Daytona coming in and out here across downtown Orlando. And in the lower right, I believe that's our parking lot here at Channel 9. So very, very wet and windy. You can see the outer squalls here also that are whipping in across southern sections of Volusia County. And we kind of have two different flows here. You can see the onshore winds that are screaming in across the Highway 44, State Road 44, Samsula, New Smyrna, and then the offshore component here coming in from the south and west. So an incredible show here from Mother Nature. And unfortunately, we knew this was going to be a long duration event, and it is going to be a long duration event all night. The last of the rain will finally not move out till later this afternoon, probably another 12, 13 hours of this weather along the coast. And storm surge up in the St. Johns County area. Media reporting the Matanzas River in St. Augustine is over the wall. So that is going to be some flooding coming into St. Augustine. This happened during Hurricane Matthew. We saw it come in through here. And I want to show you the really heavy rain bands through New Smyrna. So we've got kind of periods of heavy squalls in Daytona, but we're really going to end up with some huge rain totals there in New Smyrna Beach as well. Flagler County down through Pearson. Ocala, the Villages, Lake Pan is still wet for the next 3 to 4 hours. I think by 6 o'clock in the morning, we'll start to move some of those rain bands on through. And I want to show you just some of the radar estimates so far. And you can see the path that the hurricane has taken with the flash flood emergencies that follow along with the brighter colors, and also exactly as we expected, much less rainfall here to the south. Again, this is going to be heavily weighted north of the track. So from southern sections of Sumter into Polk County, 14, this cement color right there, that gray, is going to be over 14 inches of rain. So when you see that, we saw a lot of this 2 years ago across Metro Orlando. It was 14, 16, even 20. So about 11 inches in Apopka. And I checked my neighbor Steve Jones's rain gauge across the street, and yeah, it's 11 inches. So that's verified very well. Nearly 13 inches in Dr. Phillips. Here's Ocoee, downtown Orlando, but a gradient here where it's a lot less down south because, again, you've been on the wind but not the wet side of the hurricane. And this is Milton's wind field, which has almost doubled in size since it came on shore. It has really expanded. That's the hurricane force wind field that we're still feeling in Orlando and Kissimmee, and that's around the core of the hurricane. But as we can see also around the edges, it doesn't quite pick up the fact that we're getting that unrelenting surf over in Daytona, but lots and lots of wind. So it will still be breezy. This is kind of like the back edge of some of the strongest winds at 6 o'clock in the morning as the hurricane will start moving offshore, but it's going to keep pounding here for Daytona, Oak Hill, Titusville, up into Palm Coast, Flagler Beach, even into northern Brevard County through 9 o'clock in the morning. This yellow area is going to be the tropical storm force wind field. And there you see 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock, starting to finally move out. So it's going to be a very long night here. We are still going to see the wind and the rain. And it looks like the heaviest rainfall, guys, is starting to break up over downtown, but still more rain, probably another 2 to 3 inches in downtown. And we'll probably verify our foot to 14-inch rain total. And I still think the St. Johns River is going to be a problem. after this with all that rain that's coming in the basin. And we're backing up to St. John's now as it flows from the north to the south. We're kind of reversing the flow here, and that's going to be flooding Astor as it already is.
And I have gotten so many emails and direct messages, or DMs as the young people say, and I've gotten them from people that are right there along the St. John's. They are already flooding in their yards. I just got one with video. We're going to turn the video around. We're going to bring it to you in College Park, where yards are completely flooded up into the houses. This will be repeated over and over and over again. If you'd like to send me any video or pictures safely of what's happening where you are, you can do that on one of my social media platforms, and we'll get that back out to the viewers.
I want to show you what's going on in Osceola County right now. This is the FDOT camera. And this is the Turnpike St. Cloud area where you can see what is happening. And our Darren Matthews is actually in Kissimmee, I believe, where you've been there for the past couple hours. And how it's been? You've had a lot of wind, you've had rain. How's it right now, Daryl?
Those exact same measures are still going on. Still raining, still windy. As you can look right behind me, you still see these trees just blowing as the wind just keeps pushing it. The rain is still coming down. You can see a lot of debris being pushed around this parking lot. We're under our hotel's carport, which is the safest portion for us to be right now, while still giving you a glimpse of what we're seeing around Osceola County, specifically the Kissimmee area. Within the last hour, we have been seeing some transformers blowing up, lighting up the sky. We have seen 1,000 from Duke Energy, as well as KUA and OUC. There are over 2,000 people without power right now. We actually seen a few of the surrounding areas go a quick blackout. Our hotel's lights even went out a few times, but I pulled up within a matter of like 5 minutes. This is Richard Herr. We spoke to him yesterday. Richard is with the Osceola response team, the director of it. He's been out helping people. He just came to us not too long ago. He was helping the unhoused community. But Richard, explain how that all went out.
Well, I mean, for the last couple of days, we actually got done with the reports at Good Samaritan. We actually know everybody that's in there. We actually been checking on them at night tonight. I got the office girls calling every single phone number. They actually feel safe. They're good. I went through there a little bit ago. Not that much damage, so we're good on that. And just been driving around. We actually, driving out this way, we found a guy that was just completely frozen almost in front of Steak and Shake. And he wanted to get transported down to the hospital, and we took him down to the hospital. We got a thermal blanket, put it on him, and they're taking care of him now. So just that one person made the whole night worth it to me and the guys. We had a couple more volunteers with us earlier, and they wanted to go home and get some rest for tomorrow because they got to be cleaning up. So
now, you're outside in these streets. Yeah. You are checking on the unhoused. You're checking on people who have evacuated or, are staying and missed out in the evacuation process. But explain to me why you're doing this, because this is a nonprofit.
Yes. Yeah, we're nonprofit. We don't get nothing out of it. My dad started it in 1992, and I'm going to keep it going. He came out there and did a lot of the storm cleanup work and cut the trees off the road and all that without charging. He's always done it like that. And that's what I want to continue. This Osceola County is my heart. This is where I am. This is where I was born. This is where I'm at.
Now, my last question. We're obviously seeing Milton now. Yep. Tomorrow, with a lot of cleanup, yep. A lot of destruction we're probably seeing. But what are the plans that you have in place around the county?
Well, that depends if I get you to come out and work with us. We're going to be cleaning up, cutting all the trees, just helping people. They need help. We're going to help. We're there. I got a bunch of volunteers going over to Good Samaritan bright and early in the morning, knocking on all their doors, making sure they're, they got food. Food, drinks first, make sure they're okay. And everybody else is going to be everywhere else.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Richard. I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
He's out here staying safe. He's making sure that people are being safe, as well as if they are in some type of bad situations, he's helping them get in a good situation. As you just heard him, tomorrow is the cleanup process. They're going around to help people who, to get their lives back in order after dealing with Hurricane Milton. But for now, we will continue to watch Osceola County, Kissimmee, and everything going around in this area. Darryl Matthews, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, I just love that guy that Daryl has befriended and talked with about how he's he really is a good Samaritan for the people there in Good Samaritan Village.
One of the good ones. All right, we're going to have more for you, plus the latest on Milton and when it's officially getting out of here right after this break.
Lots of folks out there are still messaging me. I just got a pointed message from a viewer in Leesburg. They feel like we're focusing on the West Coast and then our East Coast, and we're skipping over the middle. This is 9 counties. We are not doing that on purpose. We're trying to focus on the areas that are being hardest hit at that time. But for all of us, the impacts, as I've been saying since we started our coverage, each community, each county has a different sort of an issue or problem. It may be flooding, it may be trees, it may be whatever the case, storm surge, beach erosion. And there in Leesburg, we understand that there are, power outages as well. And so, again, apologize to any viewer who feels like we've passed over them. It's not intentional. It's just there's a lot going on.
And we're going to show you what's happening here right outside the Channel 9 studios. We are in downtown, and this is a picture of what has calmed down a little bit. It was rocking and rolling a short time ago, but maybe we're in a lull. And our George Estevez has been monitoring the situation downtown. And George, what are you seeing right now?
Well, you know what? I'm also in that lull that you just talked about when you took that shot outside our studios in downtown Orlando. I am west of where you are right now, a little northwest. I'm on Livingston Street, so I'm just west of I-4 by like a block. I-4 is right over there. I'm in a canopy in a hotel because last time you saw me, right before midnight, it was, according to Chief Meteorologist Tom Terry, the height of it, gusts over 80 miles per hour. I saw it. I felt it. I hid behind the Post Parkside building from the 50s, and we were fine. We left that location because we didn't know how much longer that would happen. So we came here, and I'm stepping outside. My hood is not on, and it's drizzling. And it's not even windy at this point. So, I mean, we were out here, and when we got here, it was windy, and the gusts were happening. And if you look at that lamppost, the wind was making the rain go sideways. Right now, it's really not the case. So it's just a strong drizzle happening right here, and you can feel some wind, but nothing like we felt when we were in the heart of downtown Orlando. And just as I'm talking to you, the wind is picking up over here. LeVar, let's show them some of the trees here. So you see the blowing, obviously, that's happening in the palm tree and then that tree down there. But it's definitely a lull that's going on right here. I'm going to go back under the awning. It's a lull, and that's what happens when you talk about these storms, right? That's what you see. You see the pick up, and you see then the put down, and that's, we're in the middle of a put down. We're in the middle of just a calming, and these are the moments where people are like, let me go outside. I'm up, I'm awake. Let me just see. Do not do that. If you're in one of these lulls, whether you're in Orange County or in Lake County or in whatever county you're in, you have to wait this out because it could come at any moment, as Tom Terry keeps talking to you guys about. But that's what we're doing right now, waiting for this to pick up and waiting to see what's going to happen. But right now, it's pretty calm out here.
It's good news, we'll take the calm.
Yeah.
We've had some rough stuff, so we will take the calm. George, thank you.
No doubt. We've got some video right now from Hurricane Milton in Tampa, and this was the moment that the housing complex power grid exploded. Take a look at this.
You'll see aggressive winds blowing on the trees, and then you see the sparks right there coming from a transformer. And then the place goes completely dark with the exception of a few homes that were lit up. But we've seen this scenario play out across the area. These transformers blowing, exploding, and causing some smoke. Saw a fire over in Tampa when it happened.
I still can't believe what happened over there to the stadium. Just incredible.
Tropicana.
Yeah, and then this is our Daytona Beach cam, and this is our focal point right now along our coastline. My goodness gracious, and I can't get over that this is so similar to Hurricane Ian terms of the impacts we're going to see, and then in terms of the longevity of this impact. You saw these other camera shots. A lot of them are calm or there's a lull, but there's no lull here.
It's all night. The winds are going to be unrelenting through the early morning hours at 2. And we're in a high tide cycle now, so we'll see kind of what destruction that will bring. And then we have another high tide cycle in about 12 hours. So, yeah, I hate it when you know it.
Yep.
We knew it was going to be just a rocking storm, but even I think I've been just awed by the power of nature and seeing what happened over in Daytona, ongoing now. Tampa, of course, the deadly tornado outbreak that came in advance. When I woke up this morning and just checked the pocket Doppler, and I could see them lined up, the supercells lined up, coming in out of Alligator Alley, and they just absolutely just tore those communities apart down south.
Those are
beach and,
yeah. Those are the storms that have created the storm deaths that we can confirm right now. There may be some because of the hurricane that we haven't been able to confirm. And I think if I go back and I review this storm now, tomorrow could be an entirely different story once I see. But for me, for covering these things so many years, and Martha and Tom, you're the expert. You're from Tornado Alley. That's what got you excited about this as a profession. I am most shocked as we sit here at 2:20 in the morning at the tornado damage. And I know also that video from St. Pete of the roof peeling back on Tropicana Field. But just these tornadoes, these massive, wedge tornadoes, and how they've killed people and devastated lives.
Yeah, and if we have, there's the shot from Tropicana, and that is the baseball stadium over there, where the
staging area for
the linemen.
10,000 linemen and women, and officials say they were already in communication with the folks there. No one was hurt there
that
we know of right now. But yeah, that was the place where they were going to rest up, and then after the storm passed, there were cots there. We showed you the picture. There were hundreds of cots in there, and then that's when and you say because it's a higher up structure,
higher elevation, yeah, about 20% stronger winds as you go up 3-4 stories. So
they are getting a new stadium in St. Pete, obviously not anytime soon. This can be repaired. We've seen this with other domes. I know I used to work in Minneapolis a lot of years ago, and that Metrodome there, they had too much snow on top of it and it collapsed. But this is completely shattered.
We had the second highest tornado warning count, 126 tornado warnings in Florida today, and that's the second most all-time anywhere in the country. All time.
Okay, so I heard you say there were 126. That was the most all time. I thought you said in Florida, but in the entire United States, there's never been that many warnings in one day.
Yeah, we're number 2.
Okay.
Behind the super tornado outbreak 2011, I think.
Wow.
So that had more in one day, but 126 earlier today. I knew we had a lot down there. We had some here ourselves. We had the tornado that moved through Cocoa Beach and did the damage, and David Hecker and I were watching this, and when I came into work, it was just like tornado derby down south, and unfortunately we had these enormous supercell tornadoes, something that we generally don't see out of a tropical system. You get the fast-moving kind of weaker tornadoes. They kind of bob in and out. These were long track. It went across entire counties.
We always have those little skinny ones, the water spouts and stuff, and they're scary, but when you look at them like, oh, that doesn't look like it's going to do too much damage. But today, these pictures that the viewers have sent in and that you've seen on social media with this big giant wedge and these dark clouds and then these active tornadoes, I mean, it looks like a movie.
Yeah, it's just incredible. Let me show you this live video, and we're recording on this, so when the camera snaps off, we'll have that maybe, but that's what a hurricane looks like. And those are winds over 80, 85 miles an hour, and they will be non-stop during the night. And we are still in a high tide cycle, so I know we're eroding a tremendous amount of beachfront property right now. And these are in some of the areas that are still trying to get repaired from the damage that we had 2 years ago. That was kind of a narrower corridor south of Daytona Beach Shores, Wilbur by the Sea. We went over there, and houses were hanging off of the edge, and pipes were exposed, pools were exposed. It was an incredible mess, and still is to a certain point even today. But very strong winds continue through here. These are some of the live wind gusts right now. We're starting to crank up here in Melbourne, and you can kind of you see that counterclockwise turn. That's how we can tell there's a hurricane out over here. It's a counterclockwise system. I think we've lost our sensor over in Daytona, but we know it is really getting after it. And I wanted to show you this too, because this is another part of the story. The cold front that is up here to the north. It's in the 60s up here, and it reminds me of when we had Ian. It was, I believe, low. I think it was 61 in Jacksonville. So this cooler air to the north is helping to turn this warm core hurricane that had 80-degree temperatures at 10,000 10,000 feet in the sky when it would be close to freezing in a normal period of time, or at least in the 30s or 40s. Incredibly warm. Now we're injecting cold air, which tends to weaken them, which it's doing, but it expands the wind field. So we're getting really strong winds over a very large area. It's a very long night ahead. Now, one thing I will say, the rain beginning to back off a little bit in downtown Orlando as the heavy rain shield continues to move on through. Update on the power losses right now: 170,000 customers in Polk County, 24,000 Osceola. We're up to 20,000 now in Brevard, 64,000 Volusia, 80,000 in Lake County, and you can see that for the villages and all the way in toward Flagler County at 10,000. So flash flood emergencies got started over in Tampa and went right up the I-4 corridor, and we still have some pretty good rain on the western periphery from Gainesville down through Ocala, including the villages, Lady Lake, Astatula, Eustis, Mount Plymouth. And as Greg was talking about earlier, and I get this when we cover storms, we're kind of focused on where the worst is, and we're not necessarily covering extensively some other areas. We're not forgetting about you. It's just if we're not talking about you, there's probably a better reason. But of course, we're all still watching all these areas, and it still doesn't make you feel any better if the weather's still ongoing, and we're all dealing with this here late at night. But Mount Plymouth, I just checked the rain gauge in my neighbor's backyard there in Apopka, showing over 11.5 inches of rain. That's why I took a foot of water out of the pool, and I think the water's still coming up a little bit here tonight. Mount Plymouth, Heathrow, DeLand, Deltona, it is screaming wind and rain coming through Highway 44 from New Smyrna through Daytona. And you know, if that's the camera, what it looks like in Daytona, that's what it's like all the way up and down our beaches, including in New Smyrna and Oak Hill and Scottsmore, with very heavy rain bands coming on through, and including our northern beaches here for Flagler and for Palm Coast. And we even had water coming over into downtown St. Augustine, that surge coming in off the Matanzas River. So incredible through there. Our friends over in Ocala down 301, the villages, Lake Pan, Okahumpka, Webster, Coleman, Wildwood, and everybody in between. And this is, again, the heaviest rain thrust that is just on the north side of where the hurricane track has been. And these numbers will be a little bit lower because the storm is starting to lose some of its moisture. A lot of dry air still in training into the hurricane, kind of turning the wind and rain into just a lot of wind. But lots of rain here and still lots of rain downtown, a foot of rain and still coming down, about another 2 inches, guys, and we'll keep you covered on this.
Yeah, I'm getting messages from folks on social media saying everything's starting to get quiet where they are.
Yeah, and I just got a message here. Greg, we're visiting Disney from the UK. We have never experienced anything like this before, even by British weather standards. This is so much worse. My wife and kids are petrified. God bless you and your team for all your reporting and trying to keep us safe. That comes from Mr. Tom Duffield. Again, we have a lot of visitors. Imagine if you come from another country and then you plop yourself down in Florida. This was a rapidly intensifying storm that earlier this week was a blip that came from the Pacific Ocean. In one day, it went from a Cat 1 to a Cat 5. And then we saw what the impact was, at least today. When first light happens, Martha and I will be sitting here. We've got cameras that are fanned all over Central Florida, so if you're going to doze off, leave it on the TV station here, and we will bring you just, I'm certain, horrific pictures. Here's another look at the trop. We're going to actually show you some of the people who were inside in a live report coming up on the Tropicana situation where the roof basically just disintegrated because of the storm.
All right, welcome back. It is just after 2:30 on this Thursday morning. I'm Martha Sagowski along with my partner, Greg Warmoth, and we want to show you what it looks like in downtown Orlando right now. Here is, I could need the squeegee over that tower cam shot right now. Right now, it's pretty quiet in downtown Orlando, which is good news. We know it's rocking in other parts of our viewing area. Sam Martello and I are texting right now. She says it's a little cray-cray. Those are her words in Daytona Beach. But for now, what you're looking at is downtown and all is quiet.
Yeah, let's find out more about what we can expect for all of our counties as this storm rolls through at 2:30. Let's bring in certified chief meteorologist Tom Terry, who has been here every step of the way. And I'll never forget, it was, I think it was early last week, we were talking. I said, do we need to worry about something that's kind of slipping into our DM here?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That storm out there in the Gulf.
Yeah, you know, and it really was the injection of energy from that Pacific. It was TD11 in the Pacific that crossed over the Yucatan and energized this whole thing. And I knew as soon as that happened, I remember walking in the newsroom last Friday going, step it up. This is really going to be a problem. We have lots of warm water. We just didn't have the kind of like pull starting that chainsaw, and we finally got the right mixture, and it just fired up. And that's exactly what happened with this unprecedented hurricane, which will be retired when it's done. And this storm, Milton, only had one season because it was the 6-year alternating list of names after Michael was retired when it hit as a Cat 5. And again, just unrelenting wind and rain over along the coast. If you're watching us right now, it's going to be a very long night. Stay hunkered down. It's not going to quit all night along our beaches. Right now, the winds mid-80s here from Marineland to Daytona Beach. That's a fresh reading from Marineland. Kissimmee 76, Leesburg 75. That was earlier today. Now, because the hurricane itself is still getting relatively close by, we're kind of getting into some of the lighter wind flow around the kind of broad core of it. So that's one of the reasons the winds have died down a little bit. And you can also see the winds are now pushing more toward the East Coast. And of course, they are slamming in across our northern beaches. So we've taken some of the heavier rain out of downtown Orlando. We had that flash flood emergency, and we've had flooding nearby, and as we get to first light, we'll be able to see more of the damage that's been left behind from this hurricane, which is now over here south of Kissimmee and St. Cloud as of 2 a.m. So that was 35 minutes ago. You can see winds 90 miles an hour, pressure slowly rising, 975 millibars, and the power numbers, I'm still kind of surprised they are as low as they are, and grateful they're as low as they are. I don't want to jinx it here in Seminole County, Orange County, Osceola, coming in at 40,000 here in Orange County. This is College Park, and this is some flooding, guys, that we've seen in the College Park area. They had extensive flooding also during Hurricane Ian, and that's part of what makes a flash flood emergency declaration, is that it's high enough to get into people's yards, sometimes up into people's homes. You can see that looks like that's at least a foot of rain up against that A-frame ladder right there. So that is in the College Park area from earlier today, and the power outage numbers continue to slowly climb here. And we're continuing to see, as you've got video on the right-hand side, that's from College Park. We still have some rain coming in, but it's not at the same rain rate that it was earlier that brought us the flash flood emergency in the first place, but still raining in Apopka right now. We're almost a foot of rain up here in northwest Orange County. And I believe we had 12 to 14 inches of rain in that corridor, as we showed you earlier today, and that's verifying here. Mount Plymouth, Heathrow, Altamont Springs, very wet and windy. And where we do have the high reflectivity here of these very heavy raindrops coming by, that's where the winds are still hammering through. DeLand, Deltona, right along State Road 44, heading through New Smyrna. And the video that we had over in Daytona, if you want to put that on the side before we lose our camera, that Daytona Beach camera, that is our trifecta of winds. You can see up here in the Daytona Beach area, upper right, downtown Orlando in the lower and middle parts there. So that's what it looks like all along the coast right now, is what you can see in that upper right camera from Daytona Beach. But New Smyrna, Daytona, all the way up into Palm Coast, Marineland, we've had flooding, some surge coming in towards St. Augustine, and we're still expecting to verify 3 to 5 feet of storm surge over in Daytona and in toward our northern beaches as well. This is again a look at some of the heavy rainfall. You can see where we are offshore here coming into Tampa. This was more rain in one day in Tampa. They beat their monthly record. So they had a month in October that had over 10 inches of rain, which would be a lot for 1 month in October. And they had more than that today. So it was an incredibly wet day, as we know. Flash flood emergency. They did not get the 10 to 15 feet of surge. And folks, they missed it by 20 miles. 20 miles north, and Tampa would have had the incredible surge and probably had still that flash flooding that we saw across the area. Just a complete disaster, but they certainly had the wind and the rain, so we'll see what they look like at first light. But very heavy rain continues, beginning to back off a little bit, but we still verified 12, 13 inches of rain, about 14 here for Winter Garden. Again, we did have the flooding video. We just showed you pictures coming in from College Park, 10 inches up in Deltona, and 10.5 so far for New Smyrna. And this will keep adding up because you're going to be the last to see the rain move on out. This is the wind field around Milton, and as it kind of gets colder in the atmosphere, the wind field continues to get wider and wider, and this red area, that is the hurricane force wind field. That's why we've had the winds gusting in Metro Orlando, and this will move offshore. I think the friction effects of the land is kind of starting to break down that hurricane force wind a little bit, but coming in off the ocean, there really isn't much friction. It's relatively frictionless, and that's why we're going to continue to sustain very strong winds along our beaches as this hurricane moves farther away from the coast. And it's still a hurricane, winds of 85 to 90 miles an hour. And finally, I think probably by 4 in the afternoon, if we can believe that, that's 13 hours away roughly, we're going to take some of the worst winds on through the area. But for Metro Orlando, I think the heaviest rain totals are going to be already in place, and we'll still have some on and off showers until daybreak in the morning. But keep hanging on, and we're hanging on along with you, guys.
All right, thanks. One of the iconic images of this storm will be, and we showed it to you live right when it was happening. It just so happened we took that camera shot from our affiliate there in Tampa, the peeling back of the roof. And Martha made the good point. Wait a minute, that's base camp.
It's base camp for about 10,000 linemen and women who were there, hunkered down, if you will. Staging, we call it. Waiting to get the all clear and then head on out to get power back on the state. But, you know, we saw the pictures of all the cots. There were hundreds of cots there in Tropicana. And then it just peeled back. The top just peeled off.
And Channel 9 anchor Alex Walker, we've all been to the stadium for a sporting event, whether that was basketball, they played basketball there, football, and of course the Tampa Rays. And you have some updated video.
Yeah, and I believe Brian Shields said he went to the Final Four back in the late 90s there at Tropicana Field. So pretty amazing. Yeah, we have some updated video for something we showed you earlier tonight. If we could get our teleprompter here to join me here. We have some video from downtown St. Petersburg. One of the big cranes in that downtown area fell into a building located on First Avenue. That building just happens to house the offices of the Tampa Bay Times. And here is that remarkable footage, courtesy of Mike's weather page. A crane collapsing, crashing into that tall building, and the crane and the debris blocking that roadway. People in the area say smoke is still billowing from that building. There's a smell of gas in the air. They're also reporting alarm sirens. Again, another example of the sheer force from Hurricane Milton. That crane's massive, and you need some serious winds to send that structure to the ground. And guys, it's worth mentioning that collapsed crane less than a mile away from Tropicana Field, home of the Tampa Bay Rays. Here's video we showed earlier. We're going to keep showing it. It's going to be one of the lasting images of Hurricane Milton. We've also seen video of the interior of Tropicana Field, some serious damage, and we do have this update as well. There are multiple confirmed reports that the first responders staged at the Trop were actually relocated before the storm hit. So just essential personnel stuck around, and St. Pete Fire and Rescue tell us those people are okay. And thank goodness a majority of the people that were going to be staged there left before this, because that could have been disastrous, guys.
And I don't know this answer, but it would make sense that they did not stage there because this storm shifted and it was clear that it was coming. I mean, St. Pete is massively flooded, of course, that damage there. And the crane is next to one of the tallest buildings ever built in Florida, 515 feet. It's not complete yet. And then remember in Shannon's live report, she said she was a couple of miles away from the Trop and she had that shot showing the smoke and she thought it was a fire in the distance. I wonder if that all ties together as well. But boy, when you talk about an area getting hit so hard, Sarasota, Manatee County, that entire beautiful area of St. Petersburg, when we see the sun tomorrow and we see what's happened there, I don't think any of us are going to recognize some of those iconic places
beautiful
that we've enjoyed.
Yeah, beautiful Anna Maria Island, and Siesta Key was voted one of the best beaches just a few years ago.
Fort Myers is completely underwater through the streets of downtown Fort Myers. So they've been hit now with 3 massive storms where the storm surge has breached an area that for decades nothing had ever happened. And in terms of Tampa, it's been 100 years since what they are impacted by during this storm. So again, a lot of people are seeing things they've never seen before. We're going to continue with our coverage. We want to be here with you as we follow through with our promise to complete this storm as it rolls through Florida, and also complete the rebuilding efforts and be here as a community partner at WFTV to help those that'll be hurting for quite some time. These storms are tough to bounce back from, but we'll do it. We've done it before, we'll do it again.
As Milton brings threats of power outages, stay informed with our free Channel 9 news and weather apps. Stream Channel 9 Eyewitness News on your phone for the latest updates on flooding, power outages, and road closures. Download the free Channel 9 weather and news apps right now.
All right, welcome back. It is almost 3 a.m. on this Thursday, and we are tracking Milton. We've seen what it's done on the West Coast, just from our live shots. But obviously, when morning breaks and the sun comes out, we're really going to get a better grasp of the damage that has been done to the communities there. And we are continuing to focus as it's moving its way through our area, seeing what it is doing.
Yeah, so far, we have no reports locally of any serious injury or fatalities. Typically, that happens after the storm. However, because of the tornadic activity, there have been multiple people killed in South Florida, and so we'll get more details on that as well. We've had tornadoes in our area as well. The most significant that we know of is in Brevard County that hit that strip mall area and also took the roof off some people's houses as well. And we'll have a crew there providing you live coverage. But right now, we want to go back to Orange County.
Yeah, and our Nick Papantonis has been reporting there for the past couple hours in Winter Garden. And are conditions getting any better over there, Nick?
No, they are not. We moved. We were actually trying to get to another area of Orange County, and we came across this. This is Dillard and Palmetto, and the Dillard at this moment for several blocks is a river. Water, probably calf. No, what's that muscle there? Yeah, calf to knee deep in some spots, beyond the point where I was comfortable walking in my heavy weather boots that I've got here. You can see we got traffic lights blowing. We have a stop sign, which is half covered by water, is shaking. We watched a tow truck, like one of those big tow trucks, try and make it through. It did make it, but it was very, very dicey. We have some video that we took just a few moments ago from a different angle. We want to pull that up so you get a better view of this here. Just came across this. I mean, we almost flooded our car because it just, we drove right into it, not realizing that the road was underwater, and quickly had to pull back and turn around. There is thankfully nobody out here right now, but again, this entire intersection is completely flooded. We don't see any signs that water's made it into any surrounding businesses. It seems to be just the road, some of the parking lots right now. These buildings are up a little bit. And for this reason, I was communicating with somebody in the police department, and they said that they do have a number of flooded roads, this obviously being one of them. And as the wind just whips here, we just had another transformer go out just down the road, just as we were talking right there. This is, we got that, the back half of the storm is now here. The wind, when we were on Plant Street, was in an east-west direction. This right here is a north-south direction. So this is the back half of the storm that Tom has been warning us about and talking about the strong winds. They are definitely whipping back there, and all of that rain right now is gathering here on Dillard. This is Dillard and Palmetto. All of that rain is gathering, and it is just sitting on that road right now. We'll be finding a different way out of town in a little bit. That is not passable. Live in Winter Garden, Nick Papantonis, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
So, Nick, in terms of where that rain is coming from or that water, we may see that that's coming a little bit from Lake Apopka, which is on the basically not too far from where he is. We'll go back to him. Right now, though, look at the waves coming here. This is one of our cameras along the coast.
This is Dunlawton and Port Orange. You can see barely waves pounding the shoreline there, and we know that from our weather team that the shore is going to be churned up. Beach officials are going to be warning of the strong rip currents that'll be happening, Tom.
Oh, absolutely.
After this storm.
Stay out of the water.
Yeah, do not go in. We see it all the time, and you know, we just want to remind folks that the storm is still out there, and the after effects, rough waves.
So back to Nick's live shot.
Yeah, that was a compelling shot. Yeah.
We're still trying to figure out where all that water was coming from.
Was that pushing it out of a lake?
It possibly could. We got Lake Apopka up north. I've never seen Lake Apopka winds get water coming over the lake like that, but they certainly had a lot of heavy rain as well, so it could be a combination of all that. We saw that over in Tampa today.
Yeah.
But so we're going to be pulling that back up again, and there it is. You can see the wind still blowing sideways there. We're still very carefully trying to get out and around a little bit to assess damage, but you can see the heavy rain and the water that is coming through, and that looks like too much water to just be heavy rain to me.
Yeah, because I know that Lake Apopka is one of the most massive lakes we have here in Central Florida, and if you are in Winter Garden and you're doing any sort of driving around or looking at houses or enjoying downtown Winter Garden, you do know that the lake is right there, and whether that is from the lake or not, we'll have to get that confirmation from, you know, the folks that know that sort of thing. But you can see that stop sign there, and you can tell how deep that water is. So if that stop sign stands 8 or 9 feet tall, it looks like it's about, you know, at least halfway up the post anyway. And if that is on the streets, that has got to be in houses as well.
Yeah, Greg, I just kind of pulled up, and I think that probably is coming because we have a north wind now.
Okay.
As the hurricane is now on the east side, so we've got a north wind. And what is north of Winter Garden?
Lake Apopka.
That is Lake Apopka, and
I've got a massive lake.
I got to pull it up on my map here right now, and I will go ahead and show. This is going to be winds coming in off the lake right here. So that is probably what we're seeing flooding into Winter Garden, coming in off the lake. I
know if Nick can hear us, I know he was talking about when we can leave. I don't believe I would send that crew anywhere, because this is going to be a compelling story, because that wind is really blowing, and we're seeing this would be storm surge in its own way.
Yeah, a lake surge, storm surge, exactly. Storm surge, I've never seen storm surge come off Lake Apopka, so this is a first.
You know, we've had it come off of Lake Monroe. You know, we've watched how that has bubbled over the edges in Sanford.
Exactly. Oh, yes, we had that.
And this lake, and the reason I'm so familiar with like Winter Garden and Lake Apopka is because I've made a couple of wrong turns in Winter Garden. I'm like, oh, dead end into the lake. So, I mean, it's right there.
Yeah, if we can pull up the shot, if they still have that back there. Incredible pictures out of Winter Garden. They're working on that in the back there where Nick Papantonis is in West Orange County. And this, again, is one of those new things that we learn with every hurricane. There's always the unexpected impact. And water coming off of Lake Apopka into Winter Garden was not on my bingo sheet, but you can see it right there. Very, very strong winds coming in out of the north. And that looks like what it was to me. I don't think.
What is that speed of that wind right there, Tom? Can you tell by looking at that Doppler 9?
Still right around 50, 55 miles an hour.
So that's plenty of horsepower to get behind the water.
Oh, absolutely. It was stronger winds earlier. So we had those hurricane force winds blowing straight, and you can see the water there in the distance. It is coming in from on the right-hand side of your screen. Is going to be looking north, I believe, toward. So I think we're looking west. And you can see the water there, just incredible.
And there's all those beautiful, I'm telling you, this is such a beautiful little town with the great shops. And this is one of the main drags through. So again, I don't want to, you know, assume anything. That's a dangerous thing to do with a storm or in life. But that can't be good. This cannot be good for businesses and residents when it comes to that area. Man, to have that kind of impact that we didn't predict or didn't see coming. I wonder if the people there, if this is new to them or if this has ever happened. But look at that water.
That is crazy.
I mean, that is not rainwater.
We're assuming this is coming in off Lake Apopka. Because I think that's where we're going to get that much water coming off of. We have seen this happen up in the Sanford area, and some of it's because the St. John's would flood and it would go over the banks a little bit. So
where does this just keeps traveling, keeps going, and
it will go until it gets to a high enough point where it will stop.
And then once the wind stops blowing, then it'll have to recede itself back down.
Gosh, my goodness, what a mess there. We've had this flash flood
emergency. And needless
emergency.
to say, Lake Apopka, if it is, I mean, I know they've cleaned it up quite a bit, but it was one of our most polluted polluted lakes.
We've had this flash flood emergency going on, and that's for like freshwater flooding, like, you know, the heavy rain. But this is something else entirely. 28 years ago, I've never seen flooding off of Lake Apopka like that, assuming that's where it's from.
There's been a ton of development in Winter Garden. I mean, a lot of it. And whether or not that has any impact here or not, but if you look at all of those neighborhoods that have been built in that whole area of West Orange County, I'm not suggesting this is part of that, but with that lake and with this amount of concrete and infrastructure now built where things
I've got some breaking news
normally percolate.
All right.
Yep.
Nick Pampantonis is texting me. He says, city says this is not flooding from Lake Apopka. He says this isn't, the city is telling Nick it is normal flooding. So.
Well, I guess I still haven't seen it then, Lake Apopka. But if that's that much rain, that's part of that flash flood emergency. So they probably had a foot of rain there. That could be from that.
Maybe
That
we're
sure looked
saturated.
Okay, well, that's good.
We've cleared that up.
There we go.
There's still a
late
lot of
breaking
water.
right there.
Yeah, and that's how, you know, we get the process. We have everybody working together. All right, we're going to take a quick break. It is almost 3 a.m. We'll reset. We'll show you some of the things that have happened, some of the pictures that have come in, and we'll continue to do that.
I smell some coffee Brian Shields made. I think I'm going to have him make me some.
There you
Brian.
go. Put another pot on. We're going to be here a while.
Get you some. I'll get you
Thank you. Thank you. A little latte would be nice.
Wow.
Big storms are what we do.
We've been doing this for years and years.
We are all here to keep you safe together.
We want to meet you where you are, and that means on our apps. We're on top of it, and we'll be with you every step of the way.
Because it's all about keeping you safe and informed. Stay with Channel 9 Eyewitness News as we track Milton.
The crane collapsing, crashing into that tall building, and the crane and the debris blocking that roadway. People in the area say smoke is still billowing from that building.
Second highest tornado warning count, 126 tornado warnings in Florida today. And that's the second most all time anywhere in the country.
Oh, man, look at that. Holy smokes.
But there's no lull here.
It's all night. The winds are going to be unrelenting through the early morning hours.
We're going to be cleaning up, cutting all the trees, you know, just helping people. They need help. We're going to help.
And we still have a long way to go as we continue to track Hurricane Milton. The storm currently a Category 1 hurricane, and then it will go out into the Atlantic Ocean and continue to do its thing. And we have teams spread out across Central Florida to show you the impacts that we're feeling right now. In some areas still absolutely under the gun. Good morning to you. I'm Greg Warmoth.
And good morning. I'm Martha Sigalski. Right now, more than 2.6 million customers here in Florida are without power. Several Central Florida counties still under flash flood warnings until later this morning. You probably heard your devices go off with that piercing sound. You're looking live right now from our tower camera. If we can pull up that shot. There we go. This is Port Canaveral, and you can still see it's quite windy out there. And really, from what I've been hearing from certified meteorologist Brian Shields, is that, you know, for us here, we're downtown, it's moved on out, but it's really our beaches and Volusia, Brevard that's going to be really feeling it, Brian.
Yeah, still just getting hit hard, and we've been tracking those cameras for you, and Sam's over there too safely, so we're going to have a live report from her. She's in Daytona Beach or Daytona Beach Shores? Daytona Beach.
Yeah.
So she's watching that, and thinking of Daytona Beach or Daytona Beach Shores, a couple towns south of Daytona Beach, the Sunglow Pier, how they got that back open. And then Flagler Beach, we're watching that too. A lot of restoration.
Over by the Seas was underwater for Ian.
Yeah, so we're hoping, you know, it's nothing like that, but they are just seeing this big onshore flow, and we'll see it for the next several hours. So that's what we're monitoring. The latest, officially, the winds are at about 85, but they're most likely a lot less than that at this point. We're getting those gusts that are still approaching 80 miles per hour along our coast, but the center of this just about to move offshore. Fortunately, as Tom was showing you yesterday, how it was kind of picking up in forward speed, trying to just get this sucker out of here, and it is moving. So that's some of the good news, at least with that, as we continue to monitor that. And you see it here again, the big shield of clouds are rolling right across I-4 over toward I-95. You see how at least it is moving, so it's not going to stick around, kind of losing some of its tropical characteristics. But with that, the wind field really expands, and that means as this moves offshore, offshore. It's still going to be bringing in that northeasterly flow, exactly what we talked about yesterday, right along our coast. And that means we're going to get those gusty winds that are still going to be with us for the good portion of the day. Now, some of us are doing better. Others, we're still dealing with some really heavy weather. And we do need to hang tight for quite a while because we're going to see some gusty winds on the back side of this system as well. But they're just what we were talking about overnight and yesterday. There's that dry air where the center is to the north. That's where the heaviest rain is, and that's exactly what we're seeing now. Now, with that said, we have those flood emergencies out. Now, we're doing a little bit better in some spots where that rain has cut off somewhat in some locations. For example, we'll zoom down to downtown Orlando. We're right on the edge of it. More of that northerly, northeasterly flow right now. So if you're in Lake Nona, we're generally dry. If you're over toward Pine Hills, we have some of the heavier weather, gusty winds. Not hurricane force at this point, but still some of those stronger winds. If you have power, there could still be some additional power outages in this area. Watching Astatula, and again, back through Winter Garden, that strong flow coming in off of Lake Apopka by Apopka, and then up towards Sanford. Everything has just been rotating around. We go to the north here, and you see some of the heavier weather where you see these brighter colors, the reds, the yellows, and just kind of pumping in along our coast. New Smyrna Beach, Bethune Beach, JB's Fish Camp. Then you get back through Deltona, DeLand, getting some gust, 50, 60 miles per hour in some of this, and that's why I mentioned the possibility of additional power outages. Brevard County, you can see a little bit of a spin here as far as some of the rain is concerned. Port St. John, Rockledge, but Harmony over toward Kissimmee. Not much. Yes, definitely still some gusty winds, but that's that dry pocket. Let me swing you around to make sure we're covering everyone here. My friends in Sumter, we get over toward Lake Pan, over toward Bushnell. Not so heavy across 75 and the Turnpike, but still some strong winds gusting 40, maybe 50 miles per hour. And then you see here as we work our way to the north there, still some of those strong winds, and watching out for that flood potential anywhere from Tavares, Sorrento, swinging back toward Marion County as we get over toward Ocala, Bellevue. We've had some of the heavier rain and some of that flooding. So especially a lot of our dirt roads as you work your way over toward Lake County, those of course will be impassable with some of the heavy rain we've had. But this is it pumping in right near Daytona Beach Shores, Daytona Beach, Ormond Beach, Holly Hill, Flagler Beach, Palm Coast. This is the pocket of some of the worst weather that we have now, and that's going to be persistent. So we've seen some of those gusts 60, 70, even 80 miles per hour in this, which could knock down some of those tree branches. And we'll get to Sam in Daytona Beach with a live report ahead. So monitoring that, of course, very carefully. Just this fetch coming in off the water now as the center moves off. We're going to see that flow coming in, and that also means some of the water piling up along our coast. So our emergency managers did a very good job with evacuating the correct areas to get some of those folks away. Greg?
I just got an email from somebody in the Villages, and I do want to bring this to your attention and see what you can tell them. They bought a house in Leesburg at the Tavares line, and they say some of their neighbors have had their roofs peeled off in the storm, and one of the roofs actually rolled across the street like a tumbleweed. There are mattresses that they placed in front of their picture window and their doors because they're worried the wind is going to break through. The doors are bowed, and there's tons of rain. Sounds like a howling freight train most of the night, and that's in Leesburg and the Villages, and there are hundreds of thousands of people that live in that area.
Yeah, Leesburg and the Villages. I was just zoomed down there. So we had some of the heaviest weather that did just roll through here over toward Leesburg and the Villages. Let me switch over here. Losing some of that data right there. But again, this has all been pumping in. Now, the weather for them is going to gradually be improving, which is good. And there could be some damage, no doubt, like they said. So we're going to watch that, and we're going to get some more information on that as well. And some of the weather that was here is over in Daytona Beach now. So some of the weather we had there that caused those problems, Greg, for our friends in Leesburg and the Villages has shifted toward Daytona Beach. Let's get that a live picture if we can, and we'll pull that up. I think we have that in Daytona Beach. You can see here, Sam, could you hear me? It's Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, what do you got going on there?
Hey, yeah, I don't think I have to say that it's rainy and windy for everyone to see that it's rainy and windy right now. We've got some, what I've been talking about earlier is these like white looking walls of wind and rain just coming right off of the ocean. We're at our hotel right now off of A1A, and these condos, these high rises really just create a breezeway, a tunnel for all of this rain and wind to move in. I know you told us at one point this morning winds were reaching or gusting up to 85 miles an hour, and I can definitely see that is what we're seeing here right now. Early this morning, we have seen street lights ripped from their hangers. We have seen street signs getting ripped off. So it is definitely an intense situation right now here in Daytona Beach.
Yeah, that is a wild scene right there. And in terms of the relentlessness of this is not going to stop for quite some time. And again, as you guys are zooming in and showing us this, we've seen similar images from Ian. And Sam, when you look around and when you see this, are you all anticipating a storm surge? When high tide comes, I would imagine that will be an issue.
Talking about this morning, I mean, if you take a look at the roads right now, you can kind of already see it rushing through. And I know high tide is expected this afternoon, I think at around noon or 1 o'clock. So it's definitely going to be something we're going to have to check in on, because as you can see, there's already inches of water flowing through the roadway.
It's amazing, you know, when we've gone out to cover these, Sam, and I know you've been out there for a bit, but the rain comes in at an angle and it pierces your eyes. I mean, it just feels like sand in your eyes when you are out there, because it comes in so hard, and it's look how fast that is. I
want to listen to this too, Sam. This is wild. I mean, to see that pounding of Daytona Beach, and as Brian mentioned, you know, we've gotten some emails from folks in the villages. This is what they experienced to some degree a little bit earlier tonight, and thankfully for them, hopefully most of that has passed. But this is incredible. This is an incredible view, and I know you guys need to kind of get to some shelter. We're going to come back to you quite a bit here this morning, because I think the story of today now is going to shift to our coast because of all of that that surge and all of that, you know, the way the wind is blowing now is pushing all of that ocean and all of that rain. It's coming around almost like, you know, like a big punch right in the jaw to those folks. We lost Sunglow Pier, we lost all of that beautiful beach line, the erosion that happened, and what we saw too was the intracoastal and the ocean became one during Ian because of the surge. And with high tide, one of the areas that I know fairly well, the whole Ponce Inlet area, they lost docks, boats were damaged, houses crumbled, some fell into the sea, hotels, all their seawall was pulled away, the sand was gone, and a lot of that still looks the same now. And well, of course, now after the storm today, it won't be as good as it was earlier. So it's going to be a huge story for us along our coastline, and that's not to diminish anything at all that's happened. And the experiences others are feeling are just as frightening, but boy, that is a visual example of what's happening.
Neighborhoods across Central Florida starting to see some serious flooding. We have video right now of a house in College Park. You can see the water has surrounded the entire house and slowly is creeping up to it. Water has also flooded, look at that, their entire street. Yeah.
I'm in text messages with this owner right now, and they're awake, they are worried, their neighbors now. This is College Park. This is that flash flood warning that you all got on your phones or heard us talking about, and that's what they're experiencing. College Park is near downtown Orlando, and as I look at these messages, they are not in a flood zone. They are trying to pump frantically with an industrial pump to get the water out of their neighbor's home. One of their neighbors lost their entire lower level during Ian, and now this comes and is impacting them as well. They've lost trees in their backyard. Their street has been a river, and they are in a sheer panic there in College Park, and that is created by rain and quite possibly, you know, the infrastructure of Orlando is so old in some areas, and College Park's one of our oldest communities, that the
And we've
people
already
who
been in-
live here, those are their holly trees. They lost 4 out of their 5 holly trees in the backyard, and that water is almost in their house if it's not in right now. They are up tonight, and they are bailing water literally.
And, you know, we talked about this before the storm was coming. You know, we've already been inundated with inches and inches of rain in so many parts of Central Florida. So now you add this, Milton, to it, and it's just making the problem initially even worse because the rain has nowhere to go.
Yeah, this has been interactive TV tonight. I want to thank everybody for their kind words and their comments and sending these videos, and we're doing our best to bounce around 9 counties, more than 3 million people. And this individual who sent this to me, Miss Lindquist, you know, just was another one of the videos, and I'm getting tons of videos and pictures, and we're trying to get those turned around and show those on TV. It's been a tough night. It has been a tough night. And everyone's story is different.
We've had alligators trying to get into someone's house. We've had pet rescues, a guy in Cocoa going down River Road, which was
I'm sorry, did you say you had alligators getting into someone's house?
We had,
Bartow, there was an alligator.
Yeah, an alligator trying to get into a house.
Wow.
We had a gentleman in his truck going down River Road in Cocoa, and it was flooding, and he saw something off the side of his road. He kicked his truck into reverse, went back, and saved this injured seagull. And what was really neat is that we've got such great viewers, and someone emailed me and said, hey Martha, give him this name, the Audubon Birds of Prey in Maitland, where they help injured animals. And so I connected them. And said, hey, they want to help, because like, I didn't know what to do with this bird that he put in a cage safely in his garage.
Brian Shields is a good man, because he got you some coffee.
No, did you? Was it you or Tom?
Tom?
It was Tom.
It was Tom did that.
For the record,
Brian's slipping. Let's just be real
of
here.
what you said.
All right, here's a look at that.
Here's the gator.
Let's take a look at this. Somebody looked out of their window in Bartow with the rising waters, and that's what was looking back at them.
How'd you like that?
No.
Is that a no?
Absolutely no.
That wouldn't be good for your pug.
No, that would not be good for my pug. Yeah, my pug thinks everyone's friendly. That would not work at all.
My pug wouldn't like it either.
Yeah, that would not be good.
I mean, these creatures are everywhere. We also had walking fish.
Oh yes, by the airport.
That's a real thing.
Yeah, you looked it up. Our viewer told you that it's a real catfish, and they move around on their pectoral things or whatever they are.
Yeah, on their pectoral fins.
Yes.
All right, we're going to continue here as we progress towards daylight. And again, we'd like for you to share your pics. You can do that with that QR code there. To be perfectly honest, a lot of our viewers are just DMing me, which I think is a word, sort of, kind of.
You're so hip.
And but it's working. I get the pictures. I get to talk to you all, and I've even had people calling me.
That's right. That woman called you in our commercial break.
She just called me again, so that's cool. I'm here to answer your questions.
Hit me up, as they say.
Yeah,
slip into our DMs. Is that what they say?
Yeah, we're here for you, man. This is going to be a long process. This isn't just tonight.
I'm even on the TikTok, too. I was posting some
on the
stuff.
talk? You're on the talk?
I'm on the talk.
You know, and the other thing I remember about Charlie, Francis, and Jean, the recovery and the water handouts and the help that we'll give for our community. This is going to be weeks, if not months. We'll be right back. 3:18, we're following some breaking news. Something just broke, and it was the mount on this camera. It is dangling by the cable that is the power cable and the video source cable, but it's hanging in there for us. The relentless winds, the onshore, incredible. I mean, the demolition of the coastline is happening right now.
Those the flags?
Those are what's left of those flags.
Oh, my goodness. They're going to take 2 on those, because the last storm, remember, we watched them shear up because of the winds, and it's doing the same thing now in Daytona Beach.
It was our first indication of trouble with Ian when we looked over at our camera and saw that this was happening. This onshore onslaught is not something that we didn't predict. This was something that even Governor DeSantis in his daily briefings brought to our attention and brought to the residents' attention, that Brevard and Volusia and Flagler and maybe even some certainty to Duval County would experience this. Certainly rough surf for a long time, but what really worries all of us that have seen the imagery from Ian is what happens to Ponce, what happens to Wilbur by the Sea, what happens to Daytona Beach shores, what happens to the world's most famous beach, what happens to Flagler Beach, the Flagler Pier, the Sunglow Pier, what happens to the beautiful A1A that runs up and down Flagler Beach. we'll know the answer to that at first light, or at least have some indication. But right now, it doesn't look promising. And that's not hyperbole. That's just based on what has happened in the past. The beach has not been renourished. The dunes have not been renourished completely. It's only been 2 years ago. And in some of the areas, houses and their foundations were still teetering down there by Ponce Inlet and Wilbur by the Sea. And so this will be a major story. And I know many of you have experienced this same wind and this same onslaught. And this is just a visual example of that, because obviously we don't have cameras everywhere. And to our viewers that have had, a tough night, we understand that. But once these winds started blowing like this, we can't rush out to that scene. So that's why I've asked for your pictures. We've tried to turn those pictures around, which we've done. But in terms of our crews arriving in your neighborhood, we'll have to wait until the roads are safe, because right now they simply are not.
And we do have a camera, though, downtown. And, I have been getting messages from our viewers saying, hey, are we in the eye? There's no eye anymore. In Orlando, they're like, it's just so calm. It's because it's kicked out of here, and it's now more of a beach issue. George Estevez is with us right now. He does have a camera, and he's downtown to let us know what is happening where you are. You got a little bit of rain down there, George, I see.
Yes, we do have rain, Martha, Greg, and everyone at home. Just to give you an idea of what happened in the past 5 minutes while I was waiting for this live hit, a huge gust came by, knocked our light over, so we're using the light on top of the camera. I dove for the light. I may have fallen and slipped, which is why we tell everyone at home to stay inside. Even though you think it's over, right? You think the worst is past. Anyway, it's not over. And you go outside to check on something, you could fall. I just did. But the point is that we did have some gusts, and we do have some rain. But yes, the worst seems to be over here in downtown Orlando. I talked to our certified meteorologist, and they said yes. But the story now, obviously, as you know, is in our coastal communities. Take a look at some video we shot.
All right.
It was like 9p, 10p, 11p, midnight, and it got really bad, according to certified chief meteorologist Tom. That gusts more than 80 miles per hour at that point, which is hurricane force winds. So I was in the middle of all that, and you can see the road, you can see the lights, you can see the rain, the wind, the trees were moving. So all that stuff was happening. Debris was falling off the trees there, the older trees in that area of Thornton Park. So that's what was going on at the peak, at least the peak for the downtown area. But as we've seen, not just these images, that's the peak for there, but for other communities, they're seeing the peak now. When you come back out here live, let's go ahead and try, LeVar, if you can show them those trees to the right. We're west of I-4 on Livingston Street, so just above all the downtown buildings. You can see the winds moving those trees a little bit, and you can see through those. The rain still kind of coming down. Not so much horizontal, but we did get that gust that knocked down our light, and we do have some of that every now and then. But as far as I'm concerned, where I'm standing here, I'm under an awning, under a canopy, because we came here to protect our camera and our gear. But it's just windy and rainy right now. But still, as Greg, you were saying, and Martha, wait till first light. Wait until you can actually see before you step in something you think is not a puddle. And, you can break an ankle, you can do whatever if you're not really seeing exactly what is in front of you, because it's still dark outside. So that's the advice from someone who just fell diving for a light.
Well, I gotta call you. I gotta call you on some. I was in the makeup room with you, George, and your husband called and said, Enrique said, you don't do anything stupid while you're covering the storm. And we're gonna have to report back to him that you slipped
I didn't want the
catching a light.
I didn't want the light to break because it came from Atlanta. So I want to make sure it goes back to Atlanta.
But we need to make sure we send you back to Atlanta in one piece. And so Enrique upset.
Hey, George, it's Greg you're talking to.
Yes, Greg.
You were not worried about breaking the light. You were worried about breaking your light source.
Yeah.
I'm not going to disagree with you.
Don't hurt that pretty face, my friend. Don't hurt that pretty face.
All right, George. We're going to check back in.
We're laughing now, but that's an example. That's an example of being very, very careful. So don't do anything dumb at home.
Yeah.
We won't do that. All right, George. Good to see you. We look forward to your next live shot. Just don't fall. Don't fall again.
Yeah. I mean, lights are important. Lighting's important.
It certainly is.
All right, we've got some breaking news right now that is happening that Brian Shields has come across, and it's regarding some issues with people having to be transported out of a community. Right, Brian?
Yeah, let's get to that. I want to zoom down here. Now, a lot of flood emergencies and things like that, and we're watching this, and as Greg mentioned, we'll get a to the scenes. We're trying to let you know everything that's going on with the heavy rain. One spot that we just became aware of, this is actually in Grant. It is right here along A1A, but on the water that a few folks at the River's Edge Inn were transported. So maybe not as, I don't know if it was quickly or, how big of an emergency this was, but we did have some folks that were transported. They were right along the water. And again, this was on A1A and this was on the water. So River's Edge Inn in Grant, if you're familiar with that. Now, let me show you the bigger picture, and you can see this thing, how kind of broad it is. Just almost 24 hours ago, this thing was about 200 miles wide, and now overall it's 500 miles wide, but a whole lot weaker. And again, we are seeing that dry slot that has moved in, which is good. So yeah, some of us are drier, but still, albeit on the windy side. But look at some of these rain totals we've had. This swath through here, Winter Garden, we're about to go there with a live shot in a second, about 13 inches of some of the rain. There is that live picture there with some of the flooding. It's been a lot of street flooding. Nick's been out there over toward parts of Plant Street. Beautiful Winter Garden, very now kind of a developed area. So we're curious to see if some different spots take on some of that water. We haven't seen it super widespread, but you can see here in that live shot, and you see the flashing lights there. There has been some of that at least street flooding. Let's hope it's not in homes and businesses. Of course, Winter Garden, very close to right there with Lake Apopka, but rainfall estimates of now about 13 inches of some rain in this live shot you're seeing here. So that's one of the areas we're keeping a very close eye on everyone, but that is one of the areas we are monitoring carefully. Now, as we switch back into a couple other spots we are watching here, and I believe George Estevez is going to head into this area here, College Park area, which took on a lot of water in some locations with Ian. There's already some water getting up to some folks' home, but especially around, you get over toward Lake Fairview and Little Lake Fairview. There is flooding in Ian, and we are getting some reports of additional flooding. This would be North College Park. Here's Eatonville right here. Here's I-4 right through here. So you get over toward Edgewater Drive right through here. So North College Park, you get over toward Parr Street, Dubsdread, near Edgewater High School and Bishop Moore Catholic. That's where there is some of the flooding that we're starting to get some reports of. And I believe George is going to be checking that out. Now, getting a look at what we're seeing, where some of the worst weather is now, kind of taking you around. You can see some of the heaviest weather, not so much here. This is that spot that we are watching over toward River's Edge, but just to the north, we have some really heavy weather that's going to continue to pump in Flagler and Volusia. So if you're listening now, watching now in Flagler and Volusia, we're going to get back to a live shot in Daytona Beach. I want to go over the rain totals here. That flood potential, that continues. Flagler and Volusia, we'll cover that just ahead.
All right, thank you.
It's hurricane season. Our team in Severe Weather Center 9 is here to keep you and your family prepared. WFTV.com is your source for everything you need before, during, and after a storm. Go to WFTV.com/tropics and track every storm's path with our interactive tracker. Check out our weather live stream 24/7. This hurricane season, be prepared with WFTV.com.
Eye on the Tropics on WFTV.com is sponsored by OUC and Storm One Claims Public Adjusters.
All right, welcome back. We are pushing at 3:31 on this Thursday. A lot of folks have been emailing and slipping into our DMs, wondering what has happened all over Central Florida. It seems to be a little bit more quieter here downtown. We've had some gusts of wind, a little bit of rain, but really the folks out on the beach are getting hammered right now. We saw Sam Martello's live shot in Daytona Beach, and it was just coming down hard there. And a lot of folks want to know just basically, when is this all going to end?
Yeah, and the quick answer for that, I just got a text from Claremont, what's happening above us. It's still, an issue. Gusty winds are going to last for quite some time. This was a massive Cat 5 storm at some point, and as it works its way across, yes, some people are quiet right now, but certainly there's a large percentage of Central Floridians who are wondering, when will this stop? And the simple answer is it's going to be a while. Let's go over to Brian Shields in Severe Weather Center 9, and Brian is tracking this storm for us. He's been doing a great job, and we appreciate it. Power outages are, as we thought, significant.
Yeah, and they're stacking up. And one of the reasons why, I don't know if we still have, this is dark, I know it's dark. Our camera comes and goes. It got knocked over. This is supposed to be in Daytona Beach. And occasionally comes back, so we'll see if that does come back. But right now, that is down. But the power outages have really gone up here. And you can see county by county going up, especially as we work our way into Brevard County. That's 76,000 now. That's one of our bigger numbers. Just a couple hours ago, it was right around 5,000. Now it's up to 76,000. So Brevard, those really strong winds have kicked in. 78,000 without power in Volusia, 44,000 for our friends in Flagler, 18,000 Seminole, 42,000 without power in Orange, 26,000 without power in Osceola County. And as we get back through Polk County, 180,000 customers without power, 92,000 without power in Lake, being descriptive as well for our radio partners, 20,000 without power in Sumter, and 68,000 without power as we get into Marion County. Just seeing if that camera came back. That camera is crazy. I think we're going to get a shot from Sam as well when she could do so safely in Daytona. The camera's back. That thing just keeps, let's get, I'm going to jump over to that. Oh, you got it up. Thank you guys for putting that up. So this camera, we can't even control it at this point. It is howling out there. Again, please stay away from windows. If you're in Daytona Beach, Wilbur by the Sea, Ponce Inlet, Daytona Beach Shores, Ormond Beach, Holly Hill, South Daytona, stay away from windows. Right along the Port Orange area toward Dunlawton, those winds are really kicking in. Some of the winds will be gusting to about 80 miles per hour. That's hurricane force wind gusts. This is a live shot. Of course, those flags got totally ripped apart. A couple men and women take care of those flags, and every time they do get ripped apart right after the storm, they take care of those, and then they put up some new ones. But you should be able to see the pier. Something may have just gone flying by. I'm not sure if I saw that right, or may have just been a glitch. But the pier is right there as well. So this is the live shot. I can't even pan this around. It was actually pointing at it's on top of a one-story. There's kind of a walk-through there on top of a one-story building. I believe it's a shop. And the camera was actually facing down. I have no idea. Well, I guess it's the wind, how it kind of popped back up. But we have no control over that camera right now, and you can see why with this live shot. Those are winds of about 70 to 80 miles per hour as far as the gusts are concerned. Sustained winds there, most likely based on what I'm seeing, anywhere from about 50 to 60 miles per hour. But this is the reason why the emergency managers did such a wonderful job with some of the evacuations there. And if this is going on in Daytona Beach, based on what I'm seeing too, just south, Daytona Beach Shores, Sunglow Pier, that's also where some of that really heavy stuff is. Zooming down to that, and you can see that here as we keep that a live shot up. If that camera either goes one way or another or goes down once again. But that is the core of the bad weather. And that's what we were talking about the last few days, right? The center of this thing, north of there would be this swath of some hurricane conditions. That's exactly what we're seeing in the camera there. So Daytona Beach, that's where it's coming down. New Smyrna Beach north, that's where some of the worst weather is. So here's Ponce Inlet. You get over toward the beautiful lighthouse right there, and then you swing to the north, and you get toward Port Orange, Dunlawton. You get back toward the movie theater, even as you approach I-95 by that Panera there. There's still going to be really strong winds. And then as we swing to the north over toward Daytona Beach, and then we work our way back toward the Speedway, the winds are howling. Of course, the Speedway just inland, the International Speedway, New Smyrna Speedway too, or New Smyrna Raceway. Again, we are seeing those strong winds, but you can see the colors here telling me what we're seeing on that camera. Things are really gusty, and on top of that, this is going to be kind of shifting to the north, and we're seeing things going downhill as well. Flagler Beach, right along A1A. Not only are we seeing this strong wind and rain around, but this is going to cause, of course, more beach erosion. Beautiful Flagler Beach, one of the best spots in Central Florida, just gorgeous, kind of old Florida style there. A1A runs almost right on top, and they have done such a wonderful job trying to restore that after Ian and after Nicole, and once again kind of taking a beating. So once sun comes up and things settle down, we'll be able to get out there and see exactly what's going on. But we're not going to be one of those crazy TV stations that are sending people out in the middle of this. Even when we get back to Sam on her live shot, our reporters are making sure they have sturdy structures around them. So they are being very safe. But here's the big picture and what we're seeing. Now, that dry slot did get into it, but that doesn't mean we're not still seeing those howling winds. So when does it end? Well, we're going to still be dealing with this, even Marion, Sumter, for the next several hours. indoors. We're still going to be dealing with some of this heavy weather that is going to be with us. Now, looking at the rain totals, I'm here topping out over a foot of rain near South Sumter, close to Claremont, over a foot of rain near Winter Garden where Nick is, and we'll have that live shot as well. There's been at least some street flooding in Winter Garden, and just hoping that that's not getting into businesses or getting into homes. You see that camera there, that's the live shot in Daytona Beach, getting a bit glitchy. Very, very strong winds there. And there's that swath of heavier rain that went all the way back right near Samsula in Daytona Beach. We haven't had as much in Brevard County, but the winds are howling now. We're going to stack up a little more rain, but it's more so the winds in the water as far as the waves are concerned that we are watching. And by the way, if we're not mentioning you a whole lot, that's probably a good thing when we're tracking a system. Greg, what do you got?
Wind gusts are concerning in Lake County. Nancy wants to know, when will they finally go under 50 miles per hour? She's in Eustis.
Nancy in Eustis, we're looking at about 3 hours. It'll be kind of, it may go down a bit, but 3 hours as a whole for some of the worst weather in Eustis as far as some of those wind gusts. So Nancy, thank you for what else you got?
Dr. Phillips, this viewer, says that they've been there and this is the worst they've ever seen. Incredible winds right now. They've lived 5 years. They are scared for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, the winds are strong, and it's nighttime too. That adds to it. That scares me in the middle of the night when you're dealing with those strong winds, yeah, right? It whistles. This, especially as we're getting more power outages, you could hear it more. It's quiet in your home, you know. Or you have on here us on Channel 9, and you could hear it in those winds. Now I want to match this up too. That camera you're seeing right there, look at the winds. I was estimating over 80 miles per hour, 84 now. So that's exactly what we're getting. We're getting those hurricane conditions right along, especially our northern coast. So stay away from windows if you're trying to catch a little bit of a sleep in Flagler, Volusia. I do want you still to sleep in a safe spot if you're able to sleep through this howling wind, just to be on the safe side, because there's going to be some debris getting kicked up. These are very strong wind gusts, and some of the winds in Cocoa Beach at about 50. Now look at this. They're switching direction, and you can see it here on your screen as the eye of this passes. We have the winds kind of coming this way, and then they start to switch. Is important because as this system has been moving in, the trees have been kind of going one way, and then all of a sudden the hurricane starts to move off to the east and off our coast, and then the winds switch around, and it makes it easier for some trees to come down. Water goes one way and then it goes another way. The trees go one way and then it goes another way. So coastal as we work our way back toward parts of Brevard County, kind of backing up on the other way. Look at those gusts over toward Melbourne, 60 miles per hour right now. So that's real deal stuff. But even back behind it, not showing up, Eustis, Claremont, Ocala, Bushnell. Very strong winds as well. Not hurricane force, but very persistent and just kind of a longer duration with some of those winds. And you get a look at these winds. These are some of the peak winds, but we're going to have to keep adding Daytona Beach to this. They keep showing us numbers in the 80s. Orlando International, 86 miles per hour. Daytona Beach, 85. This was earlier, right? But we just had that gust at 84 in Daytona Beach. Marineland, 84. 78 in Melbourne. 76 in Kissimmee. 75 in Leesburg. These are very strong gusts, but right now the worst weather is as we get back toward Daytona Beach. Stay away from windows back toward Ormond Beach, Holly Hill, and this is going to continue to lift its way up toward Flagler Beach. So we're going to monitor this very carefully for you. Hurricane conditions right in this sector. Martha, Greg?
I've got someone who's very upset. She says the worst winds ever. She's so scared. It's really bad in Windermere. She says it's insane and scary right now. So we just want to let folks know that things will be clearing up in the next couple of hours. You just got to get through it. We'll be here to get you through it, and it will pass. Eventually, it will pass.
We'll continue with our coverage tonight as we try to help you get through what is, again, it's dark, and many people don't have any kind of light, and all they do is hear the sound of the whistling and what sounds like a train. It is scary for sure. And when you look at Daytona Beach, winds of 90+ miles per hour. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. 3:45 on this Thursday morning. I'm Martha Sigalski.
And I'm Greg Wormuth. The number one question, when's it going to stop? And again, it's going to be a while. Channel 9's Nick Pampantonis reporting live in Orange County. Nick is in Winter Garden, and he had some of the just wildest video of this late or early morning with the flooding happening. And what can you tell us now, Nick?
I I can tell you we got some good news and we got some meh news. So we're going to start with the good news. The floodwaters appear to be dropping here. We've got some dry pavement where before it was not dry. My photographer Declan was signaling something to me as we were going live here. A car drove through it. So, well, that's good because beforehand a car couldn't drive through this road. We'll get to that in a moment. The meh news I want to talk about is what you're seeing right now, this wind. We've been through a roller coaster the last 30 minutes or so since you last came to us. We have had huge winds, I think to the point where we might be able to call them, and I'll let Brian dictate this, but Brian talking about sustained winds. So the winds here are just howling right now, and it was howling even more beforehand.
Yeah, he's getting stronger winds, right?
Yeah, you can hear it whistling there.
One of the reasons, too, is because those winds have shifted direction coming down out of the north. So that fetch, that kind of just Lake Apopka is there. So you have the, you don't have buildings on a lake. That would be weird. So you have all of that space just to really gust the winds. And even where it is dry or you're not seeing rain, some of the winds are even stronger. That's why, Martha, you were just talking about someone, I think, in Windermere and stuff.
Yeah, Windermere.
Really strong winds. And while some of our sensors, we're losing some of those, occasionally Garden, Windermere, just like we're seeing in Kissimmee, the gusts are over 60 miles. You could hear it.
It's like it's howling. As someone who's been through snowstorms before, it's got that eerie howling sound.
You can hear it, right? Yeah. So, and those are gusts over 60, Nick. So 60, even 70 miles per hour. So be careful out there, Nick, while you're there. Make sure you because of the debris and stuff. Just be careful. Don't want anything knocking you over. I know you're a strong guy, but I don't want any problems.
No, I appreciate that. We're covered here. We're covered. But I do want to bring up the video that we took a few minutes ago. If you weren't here when we. There was a road, like I said, just a lot more water that was on it at the time. It was up to, I think, close to my knee. We've been told by people around the city, Dillard Street, where we are, this is normal for a heavy rainstorm here. It is, like I said, the water level is decreasing right now as it makes its way out. A couple people have theorized in text messages to me that it was some sort of clogged storm drain somewhere. It does bring into question, though, what we are seeing in places where we're not currently having flash flooding places that we have been problems in other storms, in places like Orla Vista, where a certain amount of water comes in, it gets overwhelmed. We were there earlier, everything was good, but we haven't been there in a few hours, and that's something that we'll be checking out as the sun comes up, and here comes the wind again. So that's the story. And when people are asking, when is this going to stop? This is what they're dealing with out here in the western parts of our viewing area, is just these gusts and these bigger winds that just keep on coming. Even as we're hearing in Orlando, things are a little bit calmer, a little bit quieter, and this feels like the storm is past. So hey, this should be over, but this is the backside of the storm, and this area is very much getting it here. Hearing that whistling, that's from a wire that's above us, that's helping that noise effect there. But as you're saying, it's going to be a couple more hours in Windermere. I'm assuming that Brian will have more hours here. Live in Winter Garden, Nick Papantonis, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, Nick, thanks so much. It's this eerie, that howling sound. So can you imagine, power's out in that area, and it's dark, and all you can do is just hear that sound.
Gusts of 60, 61 miles per hour. That is, again, alarming. Now, over to Daytona Beach, where the gusts are approaching hurricane force winds and beyond, and that just magnitude's exponential. So we understand, and the sounds are super scary at night. We talked about this earlier in the week. There's nothing worse than a nighttime storm. Nothing more. It's
so
awful.
Scary. Well, we have video from a viewer of power flashes happening earlier this morning at the Kissimmee Airport. Take a listen.
That is insane. Did you see that?
Man, that was some good photography there. Thank you, man. That was good. He says his neighborhood lost power about the same time as that video was taken. Those transformers just lighting up the night sky. That's not lightning. That's the electrical boxes and our electrical system, which now will need to be repaired, clearly, and that's why we have some 50,000 plus linemen and line women, line electrical workers to help get us back online.
And they will do that?
Yep.
They're going to do, obviously, the first responders, police stations, hospitals first, and then the most populated areas.
Yep.
They will eventually get to you.
Hospitals are number one, I know that. Yep.
Well, the Orange County Sheriff's Office emergency response team is on the road as Hurricane Milton moves through our area.
Yeah, we've got some video. This was posted on social media at about 2:45. It shows teams heading out to assist Orange County Fire Rescue with a call, and man, is that some piece of equipment right there. That
expensive piece of equipment.
Yeah, that can get through just about, gosh, any situation, and it's expensive, but it's priceless too when it goes in to save people, and we're going to need that. In terms of flooding right now, I'm chatting with some folks in College Park. They saw some flash flooding. Others also experienced that. Maybe that was what the case was there in Winter Garden. We had that flash flood warning. In terms of Orlo Vista, our Good Samaritan Village, we are waiting for crews go there. It's simply not safe to drive on the roads, and it's not advisable. There's a lot of debris in the roads. The wind, of course, makes it not only not smart, makes it downright dangerous. So as soon as we get the chance, we're going to hit those other places as well so that we can give you a really good perspective on what that flash flood meant for us. But the big concern right now, Brian, seems like most of our viewers are the winds. This storm has gone from a tornado storm to, boy, look at all that water and that surge, to now for Central Florida, the winds are just, they're eye-opening.
Yeah, the winds are going to stay howling for about 3 to 4 hours. And I want to go hour by hour in a second because a lot of us are trying to figure out when is this going to stop? When is it going to end? So I want to cover that. Now, here's that live look in Daytona Beach where the winds are gusting over 80 miles per hour, 80 to about 90. That's what we're seeing now in Daytona Beach. And this is our camera. It was looking this way a second ago. We've lost control of the camera, and it kind of shot its way back down toward the south. It is just pounding us in Daytona Beach right now, no doubt. Also Daytona Beach shores, Wilbur by the Sea, Ormond Beach. That's where some of the very heaviest weather is that we have been tracking for you. So getting a look at that. We still have those flood emergencies out. We're monitoring the areas of flooding, no doubt. But on top of that, we're watching the very heavy rain. We'll take you around. And this is where the core of it is, moving right through, just moved through near Daytona Beach shores, Wilbur by the Sea area, and then swinging all the way back, trying to work inland. New Smyrna Beach, we've had some heavier weather. Even as you get back toward Orange City and Lake Helen, strong weather around over toward DeBerry. All of this just rotating around the center, which is now right by the Cape. There's really no Eyewitness anymore, just really a center. But this just continues to pump in near Ormond Beach and Holly Hill. And you see some of these reds in here. In that, we're getting the wind-driven rain and some of those gusts close to 90 miles per hour now. And this includes our friends for us in Flagler Beach, watching Beverly Beach, Palm Coast, up toward Marineland and back inland as we work our way toward Corona and Bunnell. Got you covered in Flagler. Now, we work our way from Ocala, Bellevue, the Villages, Leesburg, all the way back through Apopka where it's drier, Oviedo where it's drier, covering Seminole County, but the winds are still howling. I mentioned how the rain would be less kind of south of the center. We've had these dry pockets move in, but the center right now is spinning right on top of the Cape. So that is the center of still Hurricane Milton. So even though we're a little drier down here, we're still getting those strong winds. Eustis and Umatilla. We don't need two Brians there. That is scary. One Brian is scary enough. Eustis, Umatilla, we are still getting those strong winds with us back through Windermere, Dr. Phillips. And you see not as much rain, not that the rain is totally done. And then we're getting that offshore flow now rotating around the center over toward Melbourne and Palm Bay, where we've had some of those gusts that have been around 60, 65 miles per hour. And you see this system now is over 450 miles wide, but a lot of dry air getting in as it transitions from a tropical system, a hurricane, to kind of a post-tropical system as it gets tied into a front. Now the rain totals, the blue on your screen here, so we're looking right along I-4 kind of back toward the 408 as you approach the Turnpike in Claremont. We've had a lot of spots over a foot of some rain. There's that live look for you right there in Daytona Beach, but some spots spots, a foot of rain. South of Orlando, it's been less, but getting a look at some of the wind gusts, and some of our sensors have been knocked out. You see the latest wind gusts in Daytona Beach, right near 80 miles per hour and close to 50 as we get toward Cocoa Beach in Melbourne. But inland, even though the center has moved to the east, we're kind of on the back side of it, we are still getting those strong winds. Winter Garden, Winter Park over toward Lake Nona, Meadowwoods, Hunters Creek, still seeing those winds right around 50, those gusts around 50. It's kicking out there, and that is adding to those power outages. And you see 76,000 now without power in Brevard County. That number just really shot up. 180,000 without power as we work our way. Is that right? Do I have that? No, excuse me. These are merging. 18,000 without power in Seminole. Big difference there, Brian. As we get back toward Volusia, 80,000 without power. 44,000 without power in Flagler County. 68,000 without power in Marion. 96,000 without power in Lake. 20,000 in Sumter, and 190,000 as we work our way into Osceola. About 28,000, or excuse me, Polk, 28,000 in Osceola, and there's that 46,000 without power in Orange. And we're going to add to these numbers as those winds are still kicking around, and we're going to continue to cover that angle of it for you just ahead. And then I do want to go hour by hour. I am updating that, but about 3 to 4 hours of very strong winds still with us. Martha, Greg.
All right, Brian, thanks so much. And we are also seeing more and more people lose power as Milton comes our way. We're going to check in on the latest numbers in just a few minutes. But if you lose power, you can still stay connected with their coverage. You can watch it on our app, or if you have a battery-operated radio, tune into AM 580 WDBO to listen to our updates. And you can be informed every step of the way. We're going to be here. We're going to be here for the next several hours to get you through.
Yeah, and when that sun comes up, that's going to be eye-opening. All right, it's now almost 4 o'clock. We'll come back, we'll reset, we'll show you some of the scenes that we've all experienced so far. And again, the #1 question that I continue to receive in social media are the winds. When will they stop? What's the speed? And again, we'll try to help each of you out, each of the communities that ask those questions. So stay tuned. We'll be right back as we continue to cover a storm that triggered most tornado warnings in the country here in Florida today.
As Milton makes landfall, Channel 9 Eyewitness News will continue to keep you informed with team coverage throughout Central Florida.
This is the largest storm mobilization in Florida history.
With constant updates from Chief Meteorologist Tom Terry and the Severe Weather Center 9 team.
Tracking one of the larger tornado outbreaks that I've done here in 28 years.
Updating you on power outages, road closures, and areas most impacted before, during, and after the storm. Depend on Channel 9 Eyewitness News.